Chapter 1491. At the lowest level of the imperial prison, on the spacious path, one could almost hear the sound of the cold wind blowing. Xiao Ran sat in the only cell. As far as his eyes could see, there was a clean and tidy bed, exquisite pastries on the table, and hot tea. As a prisoner, to be able to receive such treatment, it had to be said that the superior was benevolent. This was his eldest brother. Although he did not recognize him and did not treat him well, he had never treated him cruelly. A layer of guilt filled his heart. His eyes were slightly red. Before he could think of anything else, he heard footsteps from afar. In this quiet space, it was very abrupt. He knew who had come. When he was young, every time he heard these familiar footsteps, he would be very happy, because the eldest brother he admired the most had come. The chains clanged and the cell door was opened. Xiao Su's figure appeared in front of him. Long time no see, eldest brother. He tried to raise the corner of his mouth, revealing a sincere smile of reunion after a long separation. The person in front of him was down and out, but he didn't appear to be in a difficult situation. He was in a difficult situation, but he didn't appear to be dispirited. Only then did Xiao Su's expression soften. He stepped into the cell and sat down in front of him. Xiao Ran smiled and sat down in front of him. He poured him a cup of tea. In here, there's nothing to entertain. Imperial brother, please bear with it. No harm. Xiao Su took the teacup. He did not even frown as he drank a mouthful before putting it down. Seeing him treat him so unguarded, not suspecting whether he had poisoned him or not, Xiao Ran found a long-lost warmth. He shook his hands and drank a mouthful of hot tea before putting the cup down. Imperial brother, if there's anything you want to know, I can tell you. This sentence was a disguised admission of weakness. Compared to being interrogated by torture, he was more willing to tell his imperial brother everything. Xiao Su looked at him deeply and asked an unimportant question. Why did you bring so few people with you when you raided the execution site yesterday? With your ability, you wouldn't have been defeated so easily. Didn't you stop them outside the city? Xiao Ran blinked. I want to hear the truth, Xiao Su said calmly. Xiao Ran choked and finally gave up struggling. He said in a low voice, I know this is a trap set by my brother. No matter how many people come, it will be useless. So in order to avoid too many casualties and to avoid hurting the people, that's why. He seemed to have thought of something and paused for a moment before continuing. Imperial brother, you said that we don't have the right to trample on other people's lives. In the past, I was ignorant and did many wrong things. I didn't care about the lives of the people. I won't be so foolish again. I'm glad that you think that way. Xiao Su originally thought that he would see Xiao Ran, who was covered in thorns like before, but he didn't expect him to change so much. He raised his eyebrows slightly. He still remembered that before they parted, Xiao Ran's hostility was very strong. He didn't know what Xiao Ran had experienced during their parting that caused such a big change. However, Xiao Su was still very satisfied to see him admit his mistake. I'm very happy that my brother can come to see me. He was really very happy. Xiao Su saw that his eyes were red and sighed softly. Useless. Yes, I'm useless. Growing up, I can't tell right from wrong, good from evil. All the books that I've read have been eaten by dogs. He rubbed his eyes and smiled, but he choked with sobs. Xiao Su looked at his pained expression and pursed his lips. In the end, he couldn't bear it. He raised his hand and placed it on Xiao Ran's head. His voice was no longer so stern. You did wrong, but you shouldn't bear all the responsibility for all of this. An elder brother is like a father. I didn't teach you well. That warm and familiar heat on his head made Xiao Ran's uneasy heart finally collapse. He covered his face with both hands, his shoulders trembling. At this moment, tears welled up in his eyes. He didn't need to hold back anymore. A man doesn't cry easily, only when he's deeply hurt. Xiao Su couldn't help but sigh deeply at Xiao Ran's suppressed sobs. His hand moved to Xiao Ran's back and gently patted him like how he usually comforted the little guy. After venting, Xiao Ran felt that the big stone in his heart had finally disappeared. He said with tears in his eyes, Brother, I didn't keep my original heart. My original heart was destroyed. In the end, I became the kind of person that I hate. He learned so many skills, but in the end he turned his sword against his family and friends. He betrayed them, and in the end, he was betrayed by everyone. He deserved it. Facing this younger brother that he had personally brought up, Xiao Su's feelings were also complicated. No one knew that things would end up like this. Hearing Xiao Ran's sincere repentance, his heart was also moved. He patted Xiao Ran's head. It's all in the past. It's great that you know your mistakes and can change. However, these words didn't stop Xiao Ran from mourning. Instead, it allowed him to vent freely. Xiao Su quietly accompanied him like this. After a while, Xiao Ran sorted out his emotions. He knew that crying at this age was especially embarrassing. He used his sleeve to casually wipe his eyes, then raised his head. Brother, how do you plan to deal with me? Xiao Su withdrew his hand. If I let you return to the imperial court, it'll be difficult to explain to the officials and the common people. I'll first give you a fief. You can settle down there and live your life. Xiao Ran's eyes trembled when he heard this. Brother, you're still so soft-hearted. No matter what happens, the blood in my body can't be cut off, Xiao Su said indifferently. Xiao Ran shook his head, but didn't want to discuss this topic. He was silent for a while. After hesitating for a while, he finally gathered his courage and asked, I heard that Qingyan is pregnant. Is she doing well? Before Xiao Su could answer, Xiao Ran hurriedly explained, I don't mean anything else. I'm just asking. Xiao Su's gaze lingered on him for a while before he said, She's doing very well now. The child is also doing very well. Hearing this, Xiao Ran sighed in relief. Then he cautiously said, Brother, can I see her? I promise I'll speak to her from afar. Towards the end, his voice gradually became softer. Only when one truly cared would one become petty and low. Xiao Su could empathize with this feeling because he had experienced it before. Do you have anything else you want to say? Xiao Ran thought that he didn't want him to see Qingyan. He knew that he didn't have the right to ask for anything else, and he didn't have the face to see her. His voice instantly fell. No. With that, he heard the sound of his brother standing up. He couldn't help but lower his head even more. He already didn't have the face to see him in this life. Xiao Su walked to the door and said, I'll pass on your words to Ian. Take care of yourself. With that, he heard the door close and the sound of footsteps gradually fading away. Xiao Ran looked up in shock. His gaze passed through the wooden cell and looked at the upright and imposing figure. Tears quickly gathered in his eyes. My brother, my dearest brother, even now, you're still willing to tolerate me. I really regret it. Drip tears fell. Chapter 1492. When Xiao Su entered the hall, Chu Qingyan was inspecting the baby's clothes, hat, and socks that she had just sewn. When she saw him enter, she immediately waved at him. Come over and take a look. Aren't the baby's clothes cute? The little fellow's warm and soft brows and big bright eyes immediately dispelled the coldness he brought out from the dungeon. He walked up and took the small clothes she handed over. It was so small that it couldn't even cover his hands completely. He felt that it was extremely novel. Will the baby be able to wear it? He asked foolishly. It was rare to see her big ice block being so silly. It really proved the saying that a smart person can be stupid for a while. However, she wouldn't dampen his enthusiasm. She pointed at the clothes in his hands and explained patiently, the baby weighs a few kilograms when he's just born. This size is enough for him to wear. Some babies are born prematurely or malnourished in the womb, so it's not surprising. Xiao Su's expression immediately became serious when he heard that. His gaze was fixed on the little fellow's bulging belly that was half a ball. Chu Qingyan noticed that something was wrong with him after folding a few clothes. She patted his hand and asked, What's wrong? He said nervously, I'm worried that the baby will be malnourished. It seems like I have to call the Imperial Kitchen's chef over and remind him. Also Ethereal sighed. Before Xiao Su could finish, his mouth was covered by a soft hand. He looked at her in confusion and innocence. He didn't say anything wrong. The little fellow rolled her eyes at him and said, You basically have to call the Imperial chefs over a few times every day to remind them. Now, you've made everyone in the Imperial Kitchen nervous, and their legs turn to jelly whenever they see you. You should stop tormenting them, and let them cook for me in peace. Also, Ethereal sighed. Don't be so paranoid every time there's something wrong. Last time, I ate too much last time and didn't have an appetite for the next meal, so you dragged her over. Now, as soon as she left, you dragged her over again because the baby kicked me. You should know that Ethereal has lost a lot of weight today, and I've gained a lot of weight. Just thinking about it makes me feel sorry for her. She reprimanded him for a long time before letting go and freeing him. So don't worry. Don't worry. Let nature take its course. She thought that he would repent after saying so much. She did not expect him to say something like this. Alright, then I'll reduce the number of times I look for the royal chef. 3 times a day will do. After all, I need to know what you want to eat for every meal. Regarding Ethereal, it's true that I didn't consider everything, but checking your pulse once a day is inevitable. However, if there's nothing else, I won't summon him. If Ethereal were here, he would be crying tears of joy on the inside. How would he know what it meant to be okay? The little princess burped. She ate too little for this meal and couldn't sleep. Her legs were cramping. Master, you will think that the sky is falling down. Baby's heart is bitter. Chu Qingyan sighed deeply in her heart. It seemed that nothing she said could change the ice cube. She could only wait for the baby to be born. And then everyone would be free. Therefore, those who were innocently affected would have to suffer for a few more months. Chu Qingyan observed a moment of silence for them in her heart. At this time, Chu Qingyan changed the topic and did not bicker with him. She found a new topic. I remember that you didn't have anything to do this morning. Why did you take so long to come back? Xiao Su's mind was still on the baby's nutrition. Hearing this, he was stunned. Then he recalled the person he saw 2 hours ago. His heart stirred. He reached out to take her hand and briefly told her what he had discussed with Xiao Ran in the prison. Finally, he passed on Xiao Ran's request. If you want to see him, I'll send someone to arrange it. When she heard that Xiao Ran had already repented, Chu Qingyan still felt a bit resentful that he did not live up to her expectations. This silly child. Xiao Su stroked her head. After taking a deep breath, Chu Qingyan tilted her head and looked at him. Her gaze was subtle and unblinking. Even though Xiao Su was the god of war who could remain unmoved in the face of thousands of soldiers and horses, he could not sit still when faced with his wife's unwavering gaze. He raised his hand to touch her face and pinch her chin. He asked, "What are you thinking about?" Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. She hid the smile in her eyes and said seriously, "Although Xiao Ran is your younger brother, he once coveted your wife. You're so assured to let me go?" Xiao Su chuckled softly. He leaned over and kissed her lips. He sucked and teased her lightly, making her dizzy. After they separated, she touched her burning face and waited for him in annoyance. She was talking about being serious, but he blocked her at the slightest disagreement. How indecent. She heard him laugh and say, "Everything is under my control. He can't do anything. Moreover, I believe that you have something to say to him." How confident. But she liked this kind of arrogance. All right, then there's no time like the present. Let's do it today. She rubbed against his palm and turned into a clingy little kitten. Xiao Su stroked her face. He leaned over again and covered her with his body. Everyone in the hall was very perceptive and retreated. The wind was still cold, but where there was sun, it would still make people feel warm all over. Xiao Su sent Chu Qingyan to the entrance of a courtyard. He squeezed her palm and said, "Call me if you need anything. I will always be by your side." So worried? Then don't give in to me. Wasn't he very confident before? Why did he change his attitude in the blink of an eye? She teased him in amusement. You have to forgive a man for saying one thing and meaning another. Xiao Su openly admitted without hiding anything. It was true that he was a 9-foot-tall man, but he did not mind letting his beloved know his love. Chu Qingyan's eyes softened as she bashfully looked at him. She liked this kind of big ice cube. He never hid his feelings for her, and was proud of spoiling her. I know. I don't know what's going on, but you just lit up the skill of saying sweet nothings. I can't stand it at all." Although she said that, she was very happy. Before entering the courtyard, she turned her head and said awkwardly, You also have to get used to a woman saying one thing and meaning another." With that, She shyly slipped away with the help of Jasper and Xining. After Xiao Su understood her words, he held his forehead and could not help but laugh. The courtyard that Xiao Su arranged, whether it was lighting or ventilation, was very good. The leaves rustled, and the shadows of the bamboos overlapped. It was a good place to chat. Xiao Ran was brought out of the sky prison an hour ago. At this time he was sitting on a stone chair looking around. Soon after he sighed faintly. His eldest brother really loved Qin Yan to the bone. He was afraid that the imperial prison would be too dark and cold, which was why he chose this place. He must have spent a lot of manpower to bring her here. But since his eldest brother was so good to her, he was relieved. At this time, he heard a series of footsteps approaching. His heart suddenly became chaotic. Chapter 1493. Before he saw her, he was full of anticipation. When she came before him, he was timid and stiff all over. It was probably because he was more timid when he was close to her. When the footsteps were close enough, Xiao Ran slowly turned around. His eyes were full of anticipation and fear. When his gaze fell on that beautiful, picturesque face, the corners of his mouth pulled up, revealing a smile. "Hi Qin Yan, long time no see." The sunlight shone on the two of them, as if drawing a large circle of light, separating them from the present time. In a trance, they returned to the pure and innocent time 6 years ago. She was the fearless transmigrator girl, and he was the boy who bullied others with his power, and was taught a lesson by her. Youth was ignorant, youth was pure, youth was eternal beauty. Indeed, long time no see. You seem to have lost a lot of weight. Is the food bad? You're still growing, it's not good to be picky about food. How could Chu Qingyan not feel his uneasiness and nervousness? After sighing in her heart, she took the initiative to dissolve the awkwardness. The intimate voice of the beautiful woman in front of him, without any resentment, brought him back from his nostalgia. His rapid heartbeat finally calmed down. He touched his head, as if he had returned to his youthful self. He said embarrassedly, "It's just that my appetite hasn't been very good, but I've been eating well recently." Chu Qingyan's eyes heated up. She looked away, but her tone was somewhat unhappy. "What's wrong? Old friend, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Aren't you going to treat me to a cup of tea?" Xiao Ran only then realized that the two of them had been standing since they met. He didn't mind, but Qingyan was already pregnant. He hurriedly said, "Sit, I was so happy to see you that I forgot to greet you." He personally poured a cup of hot water for her. For some reason, when he poured the water, his hand kept trembling, spilling a lot of water on the table. However, Chu Qingyan pretended not to see it, but she felt a little sad. "I hope you don't mind my lack of hospitality. In the future." He scratched his head and smiled. "Let's not talk about the future. I'm relieved to see that you're happy now." Chu Qingyan glared at him. "Don't worry. Don't think that everything will be fine just because I have your eldest brother. When I give birth to the baby, you'll be its uncle. You'll have to prepare gifts for it when it's 1 month old and 1 year old. In the future, you'll have to teach it some skills so that no one can bully it." Xiao Ran kept laughing as he listened. He laughed so hard that his eyes turned red. "Qingyan, I'm so happy that you can say that. I'm so happy that I'm about to go crazy," he said sincerely. She pursed her lips and the smile on her lips turned into a soft sigh. "Xiao Ran, I'm very happy too. I'm really happy that you've changed for the better, and know that you've done wrong." Xiao Ran slowly stopped laughing. He lowered his eyebrows and smiled bitterly. "If only I'd known earlier and stopped before I made a mistake. Perhaps it would have been better." Chu Qingyan was slightly stunned. At that moment, she didn't know what to say. Xiao Ran saw the pity in her eyes. His heart ached slightly. He tried to smile and asked, "You're pregnant, so let's not talk about those unhappy things. I heard that pregnancy is very difficult. Can you still bear it?" Speaking of the baby, her expression became gentle. She lowered her head and stroked her belly. She smiled and said, "Pregnancy is indeed very difficult, but my baby is quite obedient. Other than the initial torment, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm very glad. It seems that it'll be an obedient child in the future. That's great." Xiao Ran's gaze fell on her belly. He was a little surprised and a little emotional. It was really amazing. A human's pregnancy was simply an amazing project. That's hard to say. Some babies are extremely obedient in the womb, and once they're born, they'll throw all their weight around. As for me, I'm not asking for much. As long as it's born safely, I'll be happy. Chu Qingyan shook her head and smiled. Thus, the two of them talked about the baby for a while. Then they talked about the past. Just like that, time passed little by little under the warm sun and gentle breeze. Xiao never thought that he and Qingyan would be able to sit together calmly one day and talk about the past and the present. When his extravagant wish became a reality, he was already very satisfied. As they chatted, Chu Qingyan looked a little tired. Are you tired? Xiao asked with concern. Chu Qingyan smiled helplessly. It's probably time to catch up on sleep. Ever since her body became heavy, she had to take a nap in the afternoon. Hearing this, Xiao became nervous. Then hurry back. More rest is good for the baby in your belly. Chu Qingyan looked at his appearance and couldn't help but be amused. Good. Look at how nervous you are. I'll come see you later. Xiao wanted to reach out to help her up, but in the end he hesitated and pulled his hand back. His gaze was fixed on the two palace maids supporting her. After Chu Qingyan stood still, she found that Xiao was staring at her in a daze. She waved her hand in front of his face and said with a smile, "Why are you in a daze?" He wasn't in a daze. He wanted to engrave the voice and smile of the person in front of him into his memory. That way, no matter where he went, he wouldn't forget her. Sorry. What? Chu Qingyan was shocked by his sudden words. That I shouldn't have been distracted. He smiled embarrassedly. Only then did Chu Qingyan relax her back. She said unconcernedly, "It's fine. I'm going back. I'll come see you next time." Okay. Chu Qingyan turned and walked back the way she came. For some reason, she felt that something was wrong. Her heart clenched and felt uncomfortable. She wanted to go back and have a good chat with him, but when she thought about how she had already said goodbye, she gave up. Forget it, she'll come again next time. Only, she didn't know that there wouldn't be a next time. Many times, some people left without warning, just like when they first arrived. The smile in Xiao eyes slowly faded as he watched the gentle and slender figure slowly disappear into the small path through the flowers and willows. He was born in the imperial family and grew up in the imperial family. He was destined to face the deceit of others. Once he fell into it, he would never be able to turn it around. Qingyan, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that our youthful days were covered in dust. I'm sorry that your sincere friendship for me changed it. I'm sorry for everything I did after that. If I could turn back time, I would definitely hide my love for you in my heart and not spread it out under the sun. Just like today, we talked so happily. It turned out that when you really cared about someone and wanted to give her happiness, it wasn't necessarily to possess her, but to sincerely wish her the happiness she wanted. How I wanted to go back to 6 years ago when we first met, to get to know you again, to accompany you, and to wish you well. He looked at the exquisite pastries on the table, some books that she had prepared for him because she was afraid that he would be bored, and some brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone. She was just like that. She was so considerate. When she was hurt, in the end, because she was soft-hearted, she repaid the evil with kindness. This was the person he liked. Unfortunately, there was no future. Xiao tried his best to smile. For the last time, I'll send you off with a smile. Chapter 1494. I also want to atone for my sins with merits, and I also want to realize that I'm on the right path, but the phrase repent and be saved doesn't suit me. I've already fallen too deep, and if I want to turn back, there will be people who won't stop trying to drag me down to hell. Xiao when Chu Qingyan walked out of the courtyard. Xiao Su was already waiting outside. She quickly walked over, and Xiao Su immediately reached out to hold her hand, then frowned. Why is your hand so cold? As he spoke, he wrapped her hand in his palm to warm her. Chu Qingyan replied absent-mindedly. It should be because the wind is a little strong today. As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Su had already taken off his cloak and draped it over her shoulders. He hugged her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace, and just like that, he led her forward. Looks like I'll have to let you wear thicker clothes when you go out in the future. Warmth instantly enveloped her body, and Chu Qingyan came back to her senses. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then we'll really become a ball. Then we still have to keep it warm, Xiao Su said firmly. Chu Qingyan laughed and shook her head. Then let him be. What were you thinking about just now? Why are you so engrossed in your thoughts? Xiao Su asked as he tightened his grip on her clothes as they walked forward. Chu Qingyan still didn't think of hiding it from him, but she didn't think of hiding it. I chatted a lot with Xiao Ran, and I could tell that he had already repented. But I don't know why. But when I left the courtyard, I felt very uneasy. Maybe Xiao Ran was too calm. It was different from what I imagined. Xiao Su focused and thought for a while. He's really more sensible this time. Maybe it's because he's really repented. That's a good thing. You don't have to worry too much. Other than that, he couldn't find a reason to answer. Chu Qingyan nodded. Maybe I'm thinking too much. At this moment, the baby in her stomach kicked her, successfully diverting her attention. If you're worried about anything, I'll arrange for you to see him later. Chu Qingyan glanced at him. My big ice cube is so generous. Xiao Su laughed. What are you thinking? I think he just wants to be a good little brother now. That's true. After the two sides looked at each other, they couldn't help but laugh. The black figure held the petite girl in his arms and slowly walked back. The sun was warm and the shadows of the trees were swaying. It was as if he could see the end of time from them. Near evening, Chu Qingyan woke up. After drinking a bowl of tonic soup and preparing to get up, a piece of news exploded in the air like thunder. Xiao Ran was gone. What do you mean by gone? Chu Qingyan was so shocked that she sat up from the couch. Her eyes were wide open, as if she hadn't heard what the other party had said. Jin Xian bowed and frowned. After His Highness returned to the prison, he took poison. By the time the guards found him, he was already dead. He had already gone. This sentence was like an invisible thread that tightened her heart bit by bit. Just 2 hours ago, she was still happily chatting with him, from the past to the present. He even laughed at her for being as thin as a bamboo pole when she was young. Just like that, that fair and clean young man disappeared from her life just like that. At this moment, Xiao Su, who had received the news, rushed back. When he appeared in the inner hall, Chu Qingyan seemed to have grabbed onto a life-saving straw. She didn't even bother to put on her shoes as she jumped down from the couch and walked towards him. She grabbed onto his clothes, her eyes filled with tears. They told me that Xiao Ran is dead. This can't be true, right? Xiao Su lowered his eyes, sorrow in his eyes. The news is correct. He has indeed left. Tears gushed out of her eyes. She hugged him and cried out in grief. Xiao Su picked her up and walked towards the bed. Then he held her in his arms and silently accompanied her. After his subordinate came to report, he immediately rushed to the prison. When he reached the prison cell, he found that he couldn't even take a step forward. When he left, he was very peaceful. There was no pain. Chu Qingyan's tears were like a broken string of pearls. Hearing this, she choked out. Big Ice Cube, can you understand that feeling? The person who was clearly talking and laughing with you just a moment ago is gone in the blink of an eye. When he's gone, it's not that he's no longer in front of you. It's that you'll never see him again. Big Ice Cube, I'm so sad. Xiao Su stroked her back, his voice low. This feeling, how can I not feel the same? When I first came to the capital, I already knew him. And Dongting, they were all friends I've known since childhood. But now, one's life is unknown, and the other is separated forever. I feel that the heavens are so cruel. Seeing that the little fellow was crying so hard that she was about to faint, Xiao Su couldn't bear it. He patted her back and comforted her. Perhaps to Xiao Ran, this can truly free him. She raised her head and reached out to touch his face. She said helplessly and sadly, Big Ice Cube, no matter what happens in the future, you can't leave me. He covered her hand and said seriously and firmly, I won't. I'll always be by your side and our child's side. After getting his promise, Chu Qingyan leaned into his arms again. Tears flowed silently and she whispered, we have to be good, good. Life was always moving and always losing. Sometimes, the person who said that he would accompany you to see the scenery would disappear the moment you turned around. So, while you could still reach out and hear the other party's voice, You had to cherish them well. Whether it was love, resentment, hatred, or pain, you would rather he or she live well in front of you than only be able to find traces of them in your memories. 2 days later, someone delivered several boxes, saying that they were ordered by Xiao Ran. Chu Qingyan asked someone to open them. There were all kinds of gifts neatly arranged inside. Rattles, butterflies, kites, rotating lanterns, beautiful bracelets, beautiful stones. They were packed up one by one, and each one was written with elegant words. For his nephew's full moon gift, first birthday gift, second birthday gift, coming of age gift, first birthday gift. Because he wasn't sure if it was a boy or a girl, he prepared a gift for each. She still remembered that day when she deliberately told him that she wanted to prepare a gift for her child's birthday. She didn't expect that he had already prepared it before he was arrested. Last year, when they met for the first time after 5 years apart, he also prepared a box of gifts for her to make up for the missing years of her birthday. Imagining the scene of him preparing these gifts with apologetic and expectant eyes, Chu Qingyan hugged those gifts and closed her eyes to cry silently. It turned out that before he robbed the execution ground, he had already lost his attachment to this mortal world. Even though he knew that it was an inescapable trap, he still stepped into it without any regrets. Qingyan, you are my purest warmth in this world. You are my last memory of this mortal world. But how could I, who was filthy, dare to hold on to you, who was as clean as before? You are my most beautiful memory, my last trace of salvation in this world. But I've already missed you in this lifetime. I don't want to stay by your side with such a face. If there is an afterlife, I will live well and be a useful person. I will always bless you with peace and joy. My dear girl, goodbye. Chapter 1495. Xiao Su stood alone in front of the palace on a night with a bright moon and sparse stars. He raised his head and looked at the night sky, his figure appearing slightly lonely. At this moment, the two of them appeared behind him. I didn't think that he would choose this method. Xiao Su did not look at them but said in a desolate voice, Xiao Ran's choice is actually a form of relief for him. He probably felt that he had sinned too much and could not wash away his sins, so he chose to leave. Xiao Ho's voice sounded. It was already good enough that he did not go crazy after he repented with too much self-blame. That day, when he saw Xiao Ran, he felt that this child was no longer the young man who was easily manipulated. There was a sense of carefreeness between his brows. He had finally grown up. But the price of this growth was too high. I thought he had let it go. A bitter smile appeared on Xiao Su's face. Imperial father was killed by his imperial mother. It's possible that he can't live with that in his heart. Moreover, even if he did, imperial concubine Yu and the others, the remnants of the Fu family, would not allow him to live freely. Xiao Ho thought of his subordinate's report that Consort Yu and the rest had escaped from the siege. He thought that this battle would continue. At this time, Xiao Yao's exasperated voice continued. But this guy is too irresponsible. He left just like that and didn't even say goodbye to us. At least he should have had a drink with us. He must be holding a grudge because I didn't say goodbye to him at the execution ground. This guy is too narrow-minded. Xiao Ho laughed, but as he laughed he couldn't laugh anymore. These brothers of his had never been able to gather together. Xiao Su's eyebrows were indifferent, and his eyes were as dark as the night. At this moment, Xiao Yao put one hand on each of their shoulders and said loudly, "Let's go and drink. There's wine today, let's drink today, let's worry tomorrow." Xiao Su and Xiao Ho looked at each other, and the sorrow in their eyes disappeared. "Let's get second brother drunk tonight?" Agreed. Xiao Yao stomped his feet. "Good. You two old foxes. But I'm not afraid of you. I won't get drunk even after 1,000 cups. You'll know once you try. Third brother is right. Bring it on. I'm not afraid of you." On the eaves of the tallest palace in the imperial palace, the glazed tiles shone faintly under the moonlight. It was originally a solemn and dignified place, but at this moment, several wine jars were rolling around, pressing against the glazed tiles as they slid past. In the quiet night, the sound of glass shattering could be heard. "Drink, drink, I can still drink." Xiao Yao's face was flushed red as he lay on the roof, muttering unconsciously. From time to time, he would raise his hand to make a toast. There were two figures sitting at the side. One of them was a peerless beauty with an outstanding figure. The other had a snow-white complexion with picturesque features. They were both dragons and phoenixes among men, causing others to forget about them. "Brother, your face isn't actually disfigured, is it?" Xiao looked at the person beside him. His gentle eyes glowed. On the surface he looked doubtful, but in fact he was certain. In this kind of night, all the probing of seniority had disappeared. What was left was an honest and cordial feeling. By now, Xiao no longer felt that this was his bottom line. He made a sound of agreement, and then pulled off his mask. Then he casually picked up a wine jar and raised his head to drink. His movements were as smooth as flowing water, not caring that the wine spilled out and wet his clothes. Xiao didn't care, but that didn't mean that the people around him didn't care. It was just a side profile, but Xiao felt as if he had seen a snowy mountain of flowers, a spring breeze caressing his face. The cold and gentle intertwined, so compatible. The black clothes were about to merge into one with the night, but that peerless face was even more breathtaking. It was like a painting of a flourishing age, slowly unfolding in front of your eyes. You saw the tranquility of the mountains, the brightness of the water, the coldness of the winter snow, and the elegance of the green bamboo. He just sat there without saying a word, and you felt as if you had experienced the most beautiful side of 1,000 rivers and mountains. Xiao didn't notice that the people around him were shocked to the point of being speechless, so he calmly explained, "Appearance is nothing more than skin. What truly convinces people is still your ability. Wearing a mask can save you a lot of trouble." Xiao came back to his senses and couldn't help but smile. Indeed, it can save you a lot of trouble. Who would have thought that such a valiant war god would have an appearance even more outstanding than a peerless beauty? Xiao turned to look at him. "Where will you go in the future?" Wine was a good thing. It could unknowingly shorten the distance between people and open up the conversation. Xiao chuckled with a blank look. "I don't know either." Xiao nodded. "It seems that I can continue to assign tasks to you, so that you won't be lost in life." Seeing that this person could make torturing people sound so dignified, Xiao couldn't help but agree with some of Xiao Yao's words. When interacting with First Brother, one had to be wary of any traps he might set. How can Prince Yi, who is second only to one person and above tens of thousands, be lost? "Eldest brother, you must be joking," Xiao said with a smile. Xiao smiled faintly, took a sip of wine, and handed the wine jar to the person beside him. Then he said faintly, "People live not only for love, but also for many other things. You are still young and have a lot of time to explore meaningful things. Don't indulge in the past. Live well." They were both people who had lost their fathers. The eldest brother was like a father. He could only reluctantly bear this responsibility and persuade him. Xiao had just taken the wine jar, and was about to take a sip when he heard these words. His body froze. When the cold wind blew, he came back to his senses and continued to drink. He said casually, "Are you afraid that I will follow in Xiao Ran's footsteps?" Xiao didn't answer, but his calm gaze had already made a lot of things clear. Xiao chuckled and put the wine jar aside. He leaned back and put his hands behind his head. His eyes were tinged with drunkenness. "Imperial brother, don't worry. Maybe I once had that thought, but I won't anymore." He had already found something strange about the day when the little rascal fell off the cliff. So as long as there was a glimmer of hope, he wouldn't let it go. Xiao raised his eyebrows, as if trying to determine whether what he said was true or false. Finally, he took the wine jar, drank a few mouthfuls and casually wiped it. "That's good." Xiao smiled when he heard this. Hearing Xiao's murmurs, he saw Xiao Yao quietly drinking alone from the corner of his eye. At this moment, his heart was incomparably peaceful. He didn't expect to feel a bit of warmth in this icy palace. It was truly surprising, but also delightful. After a while, Xiao put his mask back on. He pointed at the people who were already asleep and said lightly to the subordinates who bowed in front of him, "Send the two princes back home." Xiao Lai received the order. After accompanying his brothers, it was time to go home and accompany his wife and children. Xiao slowly walked toward Yinsu Palace. Outside the capital, A mournful voice sounded like a ghost in the dark night. It was a sorrowful cry of hatred that came from the bones. Ranner, my Ranner, how can you bear to let your mother send you off? Xiao Su Chu Qingyan, you two sluts, it was you who killed my son. I will definitely make you pay with your blood. Ha 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 ha, go to hell. Chapter 1496. The Liang family was exiled, and the Fu family was executed. The two major families of Sichuan entered the world with glorious achievements, but in the end, they ended up with infamy. People couldn't help but sigh. Xiao Su wiped out the families of the two major treacherous officials, and punished hundreds of officials who had committed the most heinous crimes. Using such an iron-blooded method to pave the way for him to ascend the throne was undoubtedly a declaration to the world that under his rule, corrupt officials were not allowed to run amok. It showed his determination to rule the world with clarity. The matter of the Sichuan emperor's posthumous edict had spread like wildfire. Although the common people were able to distinguish right from wrong and weren't deceived, on the day of the ascension, the retired emperor, who had not appeared for a long time, appeared at the ceremony. As a witness, he testified for Xiao Su that the edict was real and not a forgery. Because he was the only one who stayed in the palace until the death of the Sichuan emperor, and he was the most senior member of the imperial family, the former emperor who had abdicated the throne. No one's words were more authoritative than his. Thus the rumor was dispelled. Having just experienced the invasion of an enemy country, the homeland was still being rebuilt. Xiao Su ordered the ceremonial officials to keep everything simple. Thus, the ascension ceremony followed the etiquette passed down from generation to generation, but there was no excessive extravagance. This made the common people respect the new emperor even more. It was the country's blessing and the common people's good fortune to have an emperor who was so considerate of the common people. In front of the palace, the retired emperor and Xiao Su stood at the highest point of the Sichuan. Su, your father is too muddle-headed. You can't learn from him in the future. The retired emperor sighed, his words carrying exhaustion. Don't worry, imperial grandfather. Grandson will learn from the mistakes of others. Xiao Su bowed to express his position. The retired emperor nodded in satisfaction. His eyes were slightly moist as he patted his shoulder. Among all of you, grandfather thinks the most highly of you. In the past, you didn't want to be bound, so grandfather didn't want to tie you down here. But I didn't expect that after going around in circles, the one who would inherit the throne would still be you. Perhaps all of this is fate. Xiao Su replied faintly. Yes, it's all fate. The retired emperor shook his head. Xiao ran that child. Sigh, let's not talk about it anymore. Let bygones be bygones. Let bygones be bygones. As he spoke, the retired emperor's gaze landed on the white stone steps that led upwards. You are now in a high position and have stepped on the highest point. In the future, every step you take must be firm and steady. You must avoid being bewitched. You must walk steadily. Grandson will remember imperial grandfather's teachings. Xiao Su bowed respectfully. The retired emperor put his hands behind his back, his face still serious. In the future, I'll leave the Sichuan to you. If you're tired, you can ask your two younger brothers to help you, lest they have nothing to do. Xiao Yao, we all have the same father. Grandpa, you can't be like this. Xiao Ho, I agree wholeheartedly. Xiao Su smiled faintly. Grandson naturally knows how to make good use of people. I won't let them be too idle. The Emperor Emeritus stroked his beard in satisfaction. This child is worth teaching. The two foxes, one old and one young, were laughing sinisterly. The two brothers, who were still in the imperial court, sneezed at the same time. Xiao Yao rubbed his nose. This was bad. He had a bad premonition of being targeted by a wolf. On the other hand, Xiao Ho was frowning. It seemed like he had to go out to avoid trouble. Then you should go and do your work. Grandpa will go and see granddaughter-in-law. I left in a hurry last time, and didn't have the chance to properly greet my great-grandson. As he spoke, the retired emperor was like a gust of wind, coming and going as he pleased. Xiao Su only had time to catch the shadow of the white hair swinging around the corner from the corner of his eyes. He couldn't help but smile. In the imperial family, imperial grandfather was probably the only one who lived the most thoroughly. Today was a great day, but because she was going to give birth in half a month, the big ice cube didn't allow her to leave the hall. Thus, she could only stand at the door and listen to the deafening 3 cheers of "Long live" in the distance. The corners of her mouth slightly curled up. However, at this moment, Chu Qingyan heard a snicker, followed by a familiar voice. What a big bowl of dog food. Su-er doesn't seem to know how to be romantic. I didn't expect him to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. This palace's name is simply too torturous for dogs. Chu Qingyan's eyes lit up when she heard the voice. She hurriedly walked out. When she saw the person standing there looking at the plaque, she smiled from the bottom of her heart and called out, "Imperial Grandfather, you're back." The news of the Emperor Emeritus's return hadn't spread, so Chu Qingyan didn't receive news of his return to the palace. The Emperor Emeritus originally wanted to put on airs, but when he saw her pot-bellied appearance, his aloof appearance was instantly thrown to the horizon. He hurriedly called out to the people beside him, "Hurry, hurry, hurry. Properly support your master. If she bumps into anything, I'll hold all of you responsible." Chu Qingyan was amused by his nervous appearance. Indeed, birds of a feather flock together. Her family's big ice cube was the same. "It's windy outside, so don't catch a cold. Come, 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 my good granddaughter-in-law. Let's talk inside the palace," the Emperor Emeritus said kindly. Chu Qingyan looked at the lush greenery outside, and the chirping birds outside. A drop of cold sweat trickled down her forehead. It was already spring, so how was it cold? However, in order not to disappoint the elderly's concern, Chu Qingyan still obediently entered the palace. "It looks like you're about to reach full term?" the Emperor Emeritus immediately inquired as soon as he sat down. Chu Qingyan smiled and nodded. "In another half a month, I'll be 10 months old." Good, good, good. All these years, you've done so much for Su-er. Now you've even given him a child. Your contributions can't go unnoticed. Grandfather is very grateful to you." The Emperor Emeritus was almost in tears. The corners of Chu Qingyan's mouth twitched. She was used to seeing the Emperor Emeritus's childish side, so she was somewhat not used to seeing him like this. "Grandfather, you're too polite. This is what I should do." "No, child. That's because you don't know what's going on inside." The Emperor Emeritus sighed softly. After thinking about it, there was nothing to hide. The dust has already settled. Su-er, that brat, has narrowly escaped death. Grandfather will tell you the truth about the bestowment of marriage back then. Chu Qingyan was stunned. What the hell? The truth about the bestowment of marriage? At this time, the Emperor Emeritus had already continued speaking. Su-er's fate has been full of misfortune since he was young. I went to Hugua Temple to perform a divination for him. The abbot at that time was the current Sujian's master, and also my good friend. He told me that Su-er would not live past 20 years old. When I heard this, I was immediately struck by lightning. The heavens are jealous of heroic talents. Su-er is the smartest child I've seen in so many years. He's so well-behaved and sensible that he's lovable. Chu Qingyan's heart immediately hung in her throat. Although the big ice cube had already passed the calamity, she still couldn't help but feel anxious. What happened after that? After that, I begged my good friend to give me a solution to help Su-er pass the calamity. My good friend had no choice but to perform another divination. Then he said that there was a way to reverse the wheel of fate and make fate go awry. An alien star would descend into the world. Perhaps this would change Sichuan's fate, but the reincarnated alien star would solve Su-er's calamity. So, I'm the reincarnated woman that you brought by reversing time and space. The Emperor Emeritus nodded solemnly. Chu Qingyan felt that everything was a fantasy. Chapter 1497. Back then, she had slept in the dressing room for a while, but when she woke up, she found that time and space had changed and she had shrunk into a little doll. It turned out that all of this was because of this reason. She had thought of many reasons why she had inexplicably transmigrated. Now that she saw the Emperor Emeritus's grateful expression, Chu Qingyan was no longer conflicted and felt relieved. In fact, she should be thanking the Emperor Emeritus. If it weren't for him, she wouldn't have met the big ice cube, and she wouldn't have experienced so many things and had so many friends. Life was like this. There were gains and losses. She had lost everything in the present world, but at the same time, she had gained everything in the present. People couldn't be too greedy and couldn't be too attached to the past. Otherwise, it would be too late to regret when it was lost. Grandfather, I'm very happy to be able to resolve His Highness's death. She was really happy that her arrival could protect him. The Emperor Emeritus was extremely gratified. Granddaughter-in-law, you're a good child. Only you can take Su-er away from loneliness. You're the only warmth he has left in this life. Good. After telling you about this, grandfather's heart is also relieved. Servants, serve me delicious food. I haven't had a proper meal all the way here. Now I want to eat and drink well. After being serious for less than 3 seconds, the Emperor Emeritus had already broken his facade and lightly patted the table to order the palace servants. How could the palace servants dare to offend this great Buddha? They immediately rushed to the imperial kitchen to pass on the order. Chu Qingyan giggled. Looking at the Emperor Emeritus who was fiddling with the pastries, it was as if they had returned to 6 years ago when they had just left the capital. Although that period of time was the calm before the storm, everyone still had a good time. The imperial kitchen moved quickly. They first served a few cold dishes, then hot dishes were quickly followed. This taste doesn't seem like it was made by that little girl. Where is she? Let her show me a few skills. I want to see if she has improved after these few years. The Emperor Emeritus wouldn't admit that it was because he was thinking about her cooking even in his dreams. Chu Qingyan paused in her action of drinking tea. It was as if that delicate little girl in yellow appeared in front of her eyes. She smiled and bowed in front of her. She's no longer here. No longer here? Then call her back? Given the way Su-er dotes on you now, even if you wanted the stars in the sky, he would really pluck a few for you. Retired Emperor said disapprovingly. Chu Qingyan laughed bitterly. If she was still alive, even if she had to go to the ends of the earth, I would have asked His Highness to dig her out. Unfortunately, the retired emperor finally understood what she meant when she said she wasn't here. He couldn't help but stare blankly. She was just a little girl. How could she not be here? At this time, Xining, who was standing at the side, was afraid that the retired emperor would say something else, so she stepped forward and briefly told him about Huang Yi's matter. After hearing this, the retired emperor heaved a heavy sigh. Fate always plays tricks on people. Huang Yi is like this, and Xiao Ran is also like this. But for them, leaving is a kind of relief. What a pity for the 2 children. Chu Qingyan's heart faintly throbbed in pain. Yes, they are relieved, but they left behind pain for the people who are still alive. For example, them in Turin. Seeing his granddaughter-in-law's desolate expression, the retired emperor suddenly realized that he had brought up a very bad topic. Thinking of Su-er, that crazy wife protector, he was afraid that he would be implicated and blamed, so he immediately picked up his chopsticks and put some food in her bowl. Granddaughter-in-law, eat something. Don't think about those things. You're about to give birth. It's not good to affect the baby. If you really miss those people, wait until your lifespan is over and you'll meet them in the underworld. Do you believe in ghosts and spirits, Imperial Grandfather? Chu Qingyan was also aware of her body's condition, so she forced herself to restrain her emotions and asked curiously. It's not important whether there are ghosts and spirits or not. What's important is that people should have a thought. What if it comes true? The retired emperor winked at her. Chu Qingyan thought that it made sense. Thus the 2 of them, an old urchin and a pregnant woman, began to immerse themselves in eating. In a short while, the cups and plates were in a mess. The 2 of them held their stomachs and laughed contentedly. One must enjoy life to the fullest. Don't let the golden goblet face the moon empty. By the time Xiao Su returned, the old urchin had already slipped away. Facing the mess on the table, Xiao Su helplessly face-bombed. Chu Qingyan asked the servants to change the dishes on the table. She knew that he had been busy the whole day and definitely didn't eat much. Originally, there was a palace banquet on the day of the new emperor's ascension, but Xiao Su found it troublesome and didn't want to waste time on unimportant eating, drinking, and playing. Thus he opened his mouth and cancelled the banquet. This made the civil and military officials happy and sad. It was a good thing that the new emperor knew how to save money, but if he didn't like to socialize, how could they have fun in the future? However, Xiao Su generally refused to listen to the thoughts of these officials. He was so busy that he didn't have much time to accompany his wife. His heart was bitter. These people didn't work properly and still wanted to have fun? No way. Because his wife had already eaten, Xiao Su quickly filled his stomach. When it was time, he helped his wife take a walk in the imperial garden. Chu Qingyan came from the modern realm. Although she hadn't been pregnant before, she had seen pigs run even though she hadn't eaten pork before. She knew that walking around during pregnancy would be beneficial for the delivery. Thus, she would go out for a walk when she had nothing to do. Xiao Su would accompany her whenever he had time, and the two of them would take a walk after meals at a fixed time. Time passes so quickly. It's gone in the blink of an eye. Chu Qingyan sighed with emotion as she looked at the flowers in the garden swaying in the wind. That's right. It's a pity that I couldn't accompany you properly while you were pregnant. Xiao Su's voice faintly carried a hint of self-blame. Chu Qingyan patted his hand and comforted. What's wrong with that? The baby will be proud to have a responsible father like you. Xiao Su's face brightened as he was comforted by his wife. The commoners probably wouldn't have imagined that the new emperor wasn't holding a banquet to celebrate on the first night of his ascension, but was taking a walk with his wife and child. Their eyeballs would probably fall out of their sockets. She found it funny just thinking about it. Xiao Su said disapprovingly, warming the Kong bed with the wife and child is what every normal man should think. Moreover, if they knew, they would be even more relieved, because the ruler of the Gu family would truly think of them. That's right. You're the best emperor since the beginning of time. Chu Qingyan winked at him teasingly. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows, and the hand holding her tightened slightly. Now that your wings have hardened, you dare to tease me? When you give birth to the baby, I'll let you know what it means to be the best husband. Now that she had a child, she wouldn't have good days in the future when the goods in her stomach were unloaded. A good woman wouldn't suffer losses in the future. Thus she quickly begged for mercy. I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. However, a certain someone glanced at her coldly, then turned his head away meaning, sorry, it's too late. Isn't it just abstinence for a few months? How stingy. Chapter 1498. Xiao Su had only ascended the throne for a few days, but some officials had already begun to have crooked thoughts. Your Majesty, the harem is empty. It's time to open the doors and take in the harem. Xiao Su glanced at the official who spoke with a cold gaze. Lord Lu, do you need us to add some people to your harem? Lord Lu's old face turned red. He was already over 60 years old. Why would he need women? Your Majesty, Lord Lu means that you are busy with political affairs and need someone to take care of you. Xiao Su said indifferently. Lord Li, we remember that your daughter is about to reach marriageable age. Why don't we choose a son-in-law for you? What do you think of Marquis Ban's youngest son? Everyone knew that Marquis Ban's youngest son had dementia since he was young. He couldn't even take care of himself. Lord Li almost fainted from fright. He hurriedly shrank back, afraid that he would be an eyesore to the new emperor and implicate his daughter. It seems that everyone is very interested in our family matters. What else is there? Continue. Xiao Su had a calm expression. However, after the two events just now, no one dared to pluck the hair from the tiger's head. They originally thought that the harem was deserted, and that they could get a share of the profits. Now it seemed that they couldn't even touch the edges, because they didn't want to suddenly have a woman in their harem, or their son or daughter to be randomly matched. Thus, after Xiao Su finished speaking, everyone looked at the sky, the ground, and the pillars. They didn't dare to say anything else. When Xiao Su saw this, he raised his eyebrows and released his dragon's might. The entire palace was enveloped in his might. No one dared to even breathe. My beloved officials, please focus on political affairs in the future. There is no need for you to worry about our family matters. You are in your position, and you are in charge of your own affairs. If there is any negligence, we will not be courteous to you. Court is dismissed. With a wave of his dragon robe, that handsome and tall figure disappeared from everyone's eyes. Only when the pressure disappeared did the officials dare to take a deep breath. The new emperor's aura was truly too terrifying. Everyone looked at each other. Since the new emperor said that it was a family matter, it wouldn't be good for them to interfere. Because Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao had been sent to do many things by their brother, they could only bid farewell to their former carefree and unrestrained days and bitterly report to the court every day. At this moment, the two of them looked at each other and walked in the direction their brother had left. Oh, there's actually someone who doesn't want to enjoy the blessings of having multiple wives. Since ancient times, I've never seen an emperor refute his courtiers like this. Don't you think so, third brother? Second brother is right. The two of them appeared in the imperial study. Xiao Su didn't even raise his head. Haven't you seen it now? I can only say that your knowledge is too shallow. The two of them looked at each other and shrugged. It seemed that after being together for a long time, imperial brother and imperial sister-in-law's speaking skills had improved. Imperial brother, are you really not going to hold a mass selection of concubines? How many girls in the Sichuan would be heartbroken by this idea of yours? Xiao Yao leaned against a pillar and asked in a joking manner. In the past, they avoided me like the plague. Now their hearts are truly too cheap. He remembered that when imperial father had wanted to bestow marriage to him, many courtiers in the court had either said that their daughters were unbearable, or that they were sick in order to not be chosen. It had caused quite a commotion for a while. However, he didn't care about this at all. It was just that when Xiao Yao mentioned it, he responded with a few words. Seeing that the two of them were here to watch a good show, Xiao Su stopped writing and crossed his arms as he coldly sized up the two of them. You're so concerned about my family's matters. Do you want to marry yourselves? That's fine. Just tell me, which girl have you taken a fancy to? This older brother will make the decision for you. If there isn't anyone, this older brother doesn't mind helping you pick a few. When these words entered their ears, they felt like a cold wind was blowing. Thinking of what their imperial brother had said to the courtiers in the court, the two of them took a step back. Xiao Ho immediately expressed his stance. This younger brother doesn't have such thoughts and will not interfere with imperial brother's harem. So, imperial brother can rest assured. Xiao Yao wasn't willing to fall behind. This younger brother was just joking. You already have imperial sister-in-law, such a good wife that all the women in the world are inferior to. Those mediocre women don't even have the qualifications to carry imperial sister-in-law's shoes. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows and took back his words. Ayan is about to give birth. I won't allow any accidents to happen. So keep a close eye on the court these days. I don't want to see what happened today again. Seeing that their imperial brother had already changed his tone, the two of them knew that their imperial brother had taken this matter seriously. They didn't decline and agreed. So the three of them started to talk about other things. This matter was over just like that. However, no one would have thought that after stabilizing the court, something unexpected would happen among the people. A rumor, like the spring rain, seeped into the people and slowly eroded them. It was also like snowflakes that spread all of a sudden. Some people said that Sichuan hadn't experienced any disasters for decades. However, in recent years, there had been many major events, such as the invasion of Nansong country, the snowstorm in the north, the flood in the south, the alliance of the three countries, etc. Some people said that there was a demon causing mischief. Who was that demon? Some people also said that nothing happened 16 years ago. However, ever since a baby girl was born, everything started to become chaotic. Then who was this baby girl? Some people said that the Chu family's fifth miss, the former king of England's Princess Consort, was currently in the imperial palace. No way, she was the new emperor's most cherished person. How is that not possible? Look at the birth characters. A monk who had attained the Tao said that when this girl was born, it coincided with the reincarnation of an evil spirit. That evil spirit did not survive the thunder tribulation, so it possessed this baby girl. Therefore, after that, Xixian began to fall into turmoil because of this evil spirit. If this demon girl isn't eliminated, there will be endless disasters in the future, and the heavens will be angry and the people will be resentful. These rumors were very methodical. Even Chu Qingyan's birth characters were taken out. People couldn't help but pay attention to them. In addition, Sichuan had indeed been plagued with endless disasters these past few years. whether it was natural or man-made. It far exceeded the sum of all the disasters that had occurred in the past. Holding the mentality that it was better to believe it than not to believe it, this rumor snowballed all of a sudden, growing bigger and bigger. At first, these rumors were only spread in small towns, but after the peach blossoms bloomed in March, the rumors began to spread to the large towns in the capital. Originally, it didn't make much of a fuss, but now, it had become the topic of discussion in the streets. In an ordinary residence, an old woman with a withered face sat at the head seat in the main hall. Her once delicate skin was now covered in wrinkles. Even the most gorgeous silk and satin couldn't hide her emaciated figure. No one would have thought that this old woman was Consort Yu, whose name had once shaken the harem, Fu Yu. At this moment, she was looking gloomily at the person in front of her, whose figure and appearance were hidden under a black robe. Senior Marshal Brother, it's all thanks to you that we were able to ruin Chu Qingyan's reputation these past few days. Junior Marshal Sister's words are too serious. Dong Ting Fan replied. Consort Yu looked at the sky outside the window and smiled coldly. This time, I want to make Chu Qingyan infamous. Everyone will have the right to kill her, and she'll die in her womb. Chapter 1499. As everyone's attention was focused on Chu Qingyan's impending delivery, they did not pay much attention to what was going on outside. Xiao Lai cavalry had sent news to Xiao Su earlier, but he was not in the mood to deal with it, so he kept it at the bottom. Now these rumors had finally reached his ears. Smack! Xiao Su threw the memorials that had been sent to him onto the table, causing the entire imperial study to shake. Xiao Yao glanced at one of the memorials that was scattered on the floor. There were a few words on it that were very eye-catching. Seductive troublemaker. He could not help but twitch his mouth. These people really dared to say such things. Third brother, what do you think? Xiao Yao saw that his imperial brother was in a fit of anger, and could not help but poke the person beside him. Xiao Ho frowned slightly and looked away from the memorials. He then cupped his hands towards the person sitting at the table. This matter has caused a huge commotion. The outside world is abuzz with the news. Originally, it was the people who were making a fuss. Now even the ministers are involved. The situation is not very good. Xiao Yao snorted. It must be because Imperial Brother rejected the Imperial concubine selection, and was shocked by Imperial Brother's taunts. They must be feeling indignant, and are taking this opportunity to put pressure on Imperial Brother. Since ancient times, the Emperor was the sky of the country. No one dared to disobey him. However, once the Emperor deviated from the normal path, and did not go in the direction the courtiers expected, they would form an invisible force to force the Emperor to act. Now, Chu Qingyan's matter was a knife that they had been waiting to use to threaten the Emperor. Xiao Su rubbed his tired eyes. Recently, he did not know if it was because the little fellow was about to give birth. She did not sleep well at night, and the frequency of her cramps was increasing. Often in the middle of the night, he would have to get up to massage her calves. Originally, she wanted to sleep in a separate bed from him. She was worried that too many things would affect his rest. But especially at this time, he could not let her bear this pain alone. So what if it was hard for a period of time? But now that such a thing had happened at such a critical time, he really wanted to kill someone. It was not that it would affect him in any way, but he was worried that the little fellow's health would be affected by these things. Ethereal had already said that it was best not to let her have any emotional fluctuations during this period of time. Otherwise it would lead to difficulties in giving birth. Third brother, go and find out who's behind this. Xiao Su's voice was as cold as ice. Xiao Ho immediately replied, Yes, Your Majesty. No matter what, you can't let your sister-in-law know about this. You have to keep your mouth shut. You can't leak any information. Faced with their brother's warning, the two of them finally realized the severity of the matter. It seemed that the person behind this wasn't just targeting the imperial court. The two of them solemnly complied. It seems that we shouldn't hang around in front of imperial sister-in-law for the next 2 days, just to be on the safe side. Xiao Yao covered his mouth knowingly. Xiao Ho glanced at him. That seems to be the case. Harem, Yansu Palace. Chu Qingyan was half lying on the bed, looking lazy. Originally, Her belly wasn't so big. At that time, Big Ice Cube was still worried about whether she would give birth to a baby the size of a kitten. Unexpectedly, 3 months ago, her belly began to expand like a balloon. Now it was as if she was carrying a big ball, and her body was getting heavier and heavier. She once suspected that the baby was competing with Big Ice Cube. "Didn't you say that I was a kitten? I'll show you how big I am." A chubby baby with its hands on its waist groaned and rolled its eyes. After she imagined this scene, she couldn't help but laugh. Seeing that she was in a good mood, Xining immediately had someone bring fresh fruit. Those fruits were cut into small pieces and inserted with toothpicks for her convenience. After the fruit plate was brought up, Xining began to order the imperial kitchen to bring up warm tonic soup. Now, Xining had become the most powerful female attendant in the entire harem, because there was only one master in the harem. Sichuan Emperor's previous concubines had basically been sent away. Even if they stayed in the palace until they grew old, they wouldn't come to Chu Qingyan, who was doted on by the emperor. They hoped that she wouldn't remember them, and that they could stay in the palace until they grew old. Empress Liang, after getting what she wanted from the Liang family, shut herself in and didn't come out. Presumably, she didn't want to be an eyesore to her son and daughter-in-law. Although Chu Qingyan was in charge of the entire harem, there were very few people in the harem now, so she didn't have to spend much effort to manage it. Moreover, she was pregnant, so Xiao Su wouldn't be willing to let her work too hard. "Xining, you lass, can't you see that I'm already so fat? You still don't give up and want to nourish me." Xining knew that her master was looking for fun, so she was willing to be scolded by her master. Then, she began to repeat those words. "Master, you also know that the little master is about to be born. You have to eat more and save more energy. When the time comes, the birth will be smooth. Isn't this what Lord Ethereal said?" As she spoke, Xining innocently wiped the non-existent tears from the corners of her eyes, looking as if her good intentions were not rewarded. This servant knows that this servant's words have no weight. When His Majesty comes back, 1 sentence from him is worth 3 sentences from this servant. Then, this servant should wait for His Majesty to come back and lecture you. Chu Qingyan was amused. "You lass, you only know how to use this to stop me. Fine, I'll eat, alright?" As soon as she finished speaking, Xining eagerly handed over the toothpick. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but shake her head in amusement. "It's only been a few months, and you're already so eloquent. Let's see if Jean Xian can stand you in the future." "He dares." Xining harumphed. Chu Qingyan's eyes lit up slightly. It seemed that the relationship between these two had taken a qualitative leap without her knowledge. "Master, don't worry. Your appearance and figure haven't changed at all because of this. You're still so beautiful and moving, so just focus on eating." Xining winked mischievously. Chu Qingyan smiled. "You're the only one with a sweet mouth." At this time, Ethereal walked in with a few midwives. These midwives were selected by Xiao Su half a year ago under Ethereal's orders. They were experienced midwives who had delivered babies for officials. They had been raised in the palace all this time. Now that they were about to give birth, Ethereal brought them over to familiarize them. Chu Qingyan had also seen these midwives before. Their faces were all familiar. At this time, Ethereal opened her medicine chest and prepared a hand pillow to take her pulse as usual. And because the midwives in front of them had a noble status, if they could complete this task well, their future prospects would be boundless. Thus, they began to compete with each other to talk about things to pay attention to during childbirth, as well as some words to curry favor. Chu Qingyan knew that childbirth in ancient times was like passing through the gates of hell, so she also calmed down and listened. As they spoke, they opened up other topics. "Nyang Nyang looks so beautiful. This old servant's mouth is too stupid. I don't know how to describe it." One of the midwives was eagerly trying to curry favor. Another midwife continued. "Isn't there a saying that a smile that can cause the downfall of a country is also capable of causing the downfall of a city?" At this time another voice sounded. "That's right, ah. Nyang Nyang has a benevolent appearance and a kind heart." This old servant was thinking, how could someone be so blind as to say that Nyang Nyang is a fox? Ethereal, who was preparing to take her little Wang Fei's pulse, trembled. She was about to open her mouth to stop them, But it was already too late. What did you say? Say it again. Chapter 1500. Only now did the midwife realize that she had said something disgraceful, and hurriedly knelt down. Nyang Nyang, forgive me. This old one misspoke. Please forgive me. Ethereal wanted to slap herself. If she had known this would happen, she would have said a few words before entering the hall. Now she had caused such a disaster. Young Princess Fei, it's nothing. Don't listen to other people's nonsense. This subordinate will have people take these ignorant people away. They won't be an eyesore to you. Ethereal said, and immediately prepared to take them away. However, Ethereal's attempt to cover up made Chu Qingyan suspicious. Wait. At these words, Ethereal could only helplessly stop. Young Princess Fei, do you have any other orders? Chu Qingyan squinted her eyes slightly, and her smile sent chills down one's spine. Kongling, you haven't checked my pulse and you're leaving already? It's not your style to do things halfway, so? As she spoke, Chu Qingyan gave a look to Xining. Xining immediately understood and took the other midwives away, leaving only one. Seeing this, Ethereal knew it was too late. Young Princess Fei was so smart and knew the small details. It seemed this matter couldn't be concealed. Chu Qingyan's gaze swept over the trembling midwife and chuckled softly. Today I'm in a good mood. Come, madam, please tell me about the outside world. Otherwise, I'll be bored out of my wits if I stay in the palace. The midwife who had said the wrong thing was surnamed Lu. People called her Lu Midwife. Lu Midwife quickly smiled apologetically. What Nyang Nyang wants to know, this old one will tell you everything. That's good. Chu Qingyan changed her position, one hand lightly holding the edge of the bed. Her smile deepened. Tell me about the matter you just mentioned. Cold sweat instantly slid down Lu Midwife's forehead. An hour later, only Chu Qingyan, Xining, Jasper, and Ethereal were left in the Yansu Palace. Chu Qingyan's gaze fell on the people in front of her. Her voice was low as she said, You didn't even tell me that such a big thing had happened? Xining was originally angry, but after hearing this, she immediately felt wronged and said, Mistress, this servant really doesn't know anything. At the side, Jasper knelt down heavily, her eyes filled with self-reproach. This subordinate knew about this but did not report it. Please punish me, master. Xining was surprised. You actually knew and didn't tell me? Jasper sighed. You're too stupid. Telling you is the same as telling master. Chu Qingyan turned to Ethereal. So you know about it too? Ethereal lamented in its heart. What the hell is going on? But it still nodded with a bitter smile. Master didn't let us tell you. We were afraid that it would affect your body and the fetus. Chu Qingyan was depressed for a moment. Although she knew that the big ice cube was doing it for her own good, it really didn't feel good to be kept in the dark like this. She still wanted to say something, but her abdomen suddenly throbbed. She took a deep breath and couldn't help but lean back. Xining was the first to notice that something was wrong. She quickly supported her and said anxiously, Mistress, what's wrong? Lord Ethereal, come and see Mistress. In an instant, the entire Yansu Palace was in chaos. When Xiao received the news, he immediately threw down the memorial and all the courtiers in the main hall, and rushed to Yansu Palace without stopping. Although it was only a few steps, he had already used his Qinggong in a panic and left Turin, Huling, and the others far behind him. Turin and Turin saw the shock in each other's eyes. It was rare to see their master so panicked. The last time was because of the young princess consort. They hoped that nothing would happen to the young princess consort this time. Otherwise, looking at their master's posture, it seemed like he was going to destroy the world. When everyone arrived at Yansu Palace, Ethereal was still giving first aid to Chu Qingyan. Everyone was blocked outside, and began to stomp their feet anxiously. At this time, no one dared to stop Xiao. He was exuding a murderous aura from head to toe. How is it? Ethereal had just finished performing acupuncture when she heard a cold voice behind her. It didn't take a guess to know who it was. It's under control for the time being. She'll be fine after resting for half a day. It was really hard to imagine. If she wasn't treated in time, the fetus in the young princess consort's belly would be in danger. Ethereal wiped the cold sweat on his face, and let out a long sigh of relief. Xiao didn't feel relieved because of this. His gaze swept to Ethereal's pale face. Needless to say, he knew how dangerous the little guy's situation was just now. What the hell is going on? Why did Ian suddenly become emotionally unstable? After seeing the little guy, Xiao sat in the front hall and glanced at the people kneeling on the ground with a dignified expression. It was clearly spring in April, but the people present felt as if they had fallen into the cold winter and couldn't help but shiver. Ethereal raised his head and took the lead to explain the ins and outs of everything. In the end, he blamed himself and said, "It's this subordinate's fault for not keeping an eye on the people below. This subordinate doesn't dare to ask for master's forgiveness. Ethereal, you've always been reliable. That's why I trusted you with Ian's safety. I didn't expect you to be so muddle-headed one day." Xiao's gaze was cold. Ethereal lowered his head, his eyes red. This subordinate knows his mistake. Xiao narrowed his eyes. "Do you still remember the punishment for not doing your job properly?" Ethereal nodded. "I know. This subordinate will go to the torture hall to receive the punishment." Turin immediately stood up. "Master, the matter has already reached this point. It's no time to find out who's responsible. Besides, the young princess consort can't be separated from Ethereal." Xiao rubbed his forehead. He knew that this was a critical moment. He waved his hand to let Ethereal stand up. "There won't be a next time." Ethereal nodded. "This subordinate knows." At this time, Hualing flew into the hall and walked to the front of the emperor. "Master, this subordinate went to investigate that Lu Mama just now, but she's already dead." Everyone was shocked. Xiao sneered. "Investigate the palace thoroughly. I'd rather take 3,000 than miss a single person." Turin and Hualing immediately left to carry out the order. In an instant, everyone could smell the invisible tension in the air. Everyone had already left. Xiao's hand gripped the chair's handle tightly, his entire body emitting a vicious aura. The rumors among the people, the midwife and the harem, all of these were linked together to point at his little fellow. He wasn't afraid if they were targeting him. But when it came to his little fellow, he couldn't bear to let her suffer any grievances. Xiao looked up and his gaze landed on Ethereal. Ethereal met his master's somewhat vacant gaze and hurriedly stepped forward. "What orders does master have?" "Ethereal, this time no matter what, please protect Ian's life." Xiao's voice was no longer as cold as before. It was as if he was just an ordinary husband asking a doctor to treat his wife. Ethereal's expression turned cold. "Master, even if this subordinate has to risk this life, this subordinate will ensure that the young princess consort and her child are safe." "Good." Just as Xiao agreed, Xining quickly ran in front of him and cheerfully said, "Your Majesty, master is awake." As soon as she finished speaking, a gust of wind blew in front of her, and the seat was already empty. Xining rubbed her eyes, feeling greatly surprised. Hualing smiled and said, "They've already gone far away." Xining then hurriedly ran back. Chapter 1501. Chu Qingyan opened her eyes groggily, and the first thing she saw was that familiar pair of worried eyes. She pursed her lips and asked, "What happened to me?" Xiao hurriedly said, "Ethereal said that your emotions fluctuated too much and your blood supply was insufficient, causing you to faint. Are you still feeling unwell?" She raised her hand to rub her temples, and her muddled mind gradually cleared up. Everything that had happened earlier flashed past her eyes. She wrinkled her nose and pushed his outstretched hand away. "I'm not feeling well. Go away. I don't want to see you right now." The person who was smiling at him earlier suddenly changed her expression and wanted to chase him out. Xiao felt wronged. Logically speaking, it was the people outside who were spreading rumors, and it had nothing to do with him. He held her hand, his heart aching for her when she felt upset again. He wished he could hold her in his hands and dote on her. "Ian, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling upset? I'll call Ethereal for you." Her hand was held by him, and she could not break free. Chu Qingyan simply gave up. She turned her back and did not want to bother with him. "It's no use calling Ethereal. I was angered by you. I'm so angry that my liver hurts." Xiao felt even more wronged now. But if his wife said that he was wrong, then he was wrong. He sincerely admitted his mistake. I was wrong. He was still so cold earlier, but in the blink of an eye, he changed into a different person in front of his wife. The majestic king suddenly became his wife's slave. This scene was too beautiful to look at. What did you do wrong? Chu Qingyan turned around and looked at him coldly. Xiao Su choked. How would he know? He was just taking the opportunity to coax her. Seeing him like this, she knew that he was just brushing her off. She snorted coldly and withdrew her hand from his. Then she turned around and faced him with the back of her head. Xiao Su's current mood could no longer be described as speechless and choking. Tell me, how did I make you angry? Tell me, I'll definitely change. Xiao Su was worried about her health and the child in her belly. He softened his tone and didn't look like an emperor at all. Chu Qingyan planned to give him the cold shoulder for a while, so that he could reflect on himself. But after thinking about it, he might not know what he did wrong. At that time, he would be the one sulking. After a while, Xiao Su saw his little wife mercifully turn around and pay attention to him. Big ice block, rumors are flying everywhere outside. Why didn't you tell me? Do you think that my tolerance is low and I can't share the burden with you? Or do you think I'm just a pawn that can be manipulated by anyone? Chu Qingyan threw these words directly at him. Xiao Su finally understood the crux of the problem. He held her hand and looked at her, his eyes full of love. He said, "You're at a critical juncture now. I don't want these unimportant things to affect you, so I didn't let anyone tell you. You're always like this. Every time something happens, you bear it alone and don't want to tell me. What is husband and wife? It means to suffer together and bear difficulties together. Or do you not take me seriously at all? Do you want a harem of 3,000 beauties? Fine, we're not married yet anyway. We'll marry separately in the future and have nothing to do with each other." Chu Qingyan knew that he was doing it for her own good, but this was a matter of principle. She really wasn't a chick and didn't need others to shield her from the wind and rain. Now that she was choking on her anger, if she didn't vent it out, it would hurt her even more. It was just that she didn't choose her words carefully in her anger. After she finished speaking, she regretted her harsh words. But now that she was angry and put on airs, she couldn't take it back, so she might as well just let it be. Xiao Su accepted the first few words because his wife was right. But after hearing the latter part, Xiao Su's face instantly darkened. On the other side, Chu Qingyan nagged. "You're always like this. After the incident, I'll scold you and you'll admit that you won't do it again. But you always say one thing in public and another behind my back. You accept it humbly and never change." After she finished speaking, she turned her head and saw that there was something wrong with his gaze. She felt a little guilty, but she was the one in the right. At this moment, Xiao Su's gaze was locked on her, and he stared at her coldly. I was wrong in this matter, but you can't say such heartless words. What do you mean by marrying separately and having nothing to do with each other? My heart is in so much pain right now. When you were unconscious, I was so worried. Now that you're awake, you say such things. Can't you see my feelings for you? It's over, this matter is serious. Chu Qingyan swallowed a mouthful of water. She thought about whether she should take this opportunity to settle the score with him, or raise her hands to appease him first. There was no comparison between the two, so she chose the latter without hesitation. She reached out to grab his finger and shook it. "I was wrong. I said the wrong thing. I shouldn't have said that." Xiao Su took a deep breath. He wanted to lecture her again, but seeing how submissive she was, he couldn't bear to say anything harsh. He reached out to hold her shoulders and said in a tight voice, No matter how unhappy we are in the future, even if you're angry, you can't always say that we're not related to each other, because that's a kind of erasure of our feelings. Okay, if there's any problem in the future, we'll talk it out. Don't say things out of anger." She knew that she was really wrong. Sometimes, unintentional words were the most hurtful. Moreover, only those who loved us would be sad and hurt because of our words. The person in his arms was still fine. She could cry, laugh, and scold in his arms. Xiao Su didn't dare to recall the scene of him standing by the bed and watching her unconscious. Living well, was a gift from the heavens. he said with some disappointment and pity. Talk it out in the future. You can hit me or scold me to vent your anger, but you can't anger yourself. Chu Qingyan rubbed her nose. She knew that he was right. However, after seeing that he was soothed by her, she couldn't help but change the subject. She sat up from his arms and grabbed the front of his clothes. She said fiercely, "Okay, that's that. I've already admitted my mistake. Now, I'm going to settle the score with you. You've kept things from me time and time again. Do you really think I can't take it?" Xiao Su felt a headache coming on. The person who was as obedient as a cat just now had turned into an angry little tiger. Her face changed abnormally fast. He raised his eyebrows. "Is that so? Then how did you faint?" She blushed and gritted her teeth. "Isn't it all because of you? How could an outsider have the ability to make me take it to heart? To tell you the truth, those rumors outside aren't as damaging as this matter that you're hiding from me." This time, it was Xiao Su's turn to cough lightly. He was a little uncomfortable. Okay. What do you want to know? I'll tell you right now. I won't hide it from you." He didn't dare to say that it wouldn't happen again, because when it came to the little fellow's matters, he always had to choose the best way. It wasn't that he didn't believe in her ability, but as a husband, if he couldn't shelter his wife from the wind and rain, then what kind of man was he? Chapter 1502. She already knew what she needed to know. Now there was only one question floating in her mind. Who is targeting me? In all honesty, she did not do anything wrong, so she should not have offended anyone. Xiao Su's expression turned serious. Although there is no evidence, all the signs point to the Moon Palace sect. The Moon Palace sect. These three familiar words caused a familiar figure to appear in Chu Qingyan's mind. It wasn't because of this rumor, but because she missed that person. It was a pity that there was no news of him, and she missed him dearly. Chu Qingyan collected her thoughts and narrowed her eyes. I remember that the Moon Palace sect was on Consort Yu's side. Then this matter should be related to Consort Yu. Xiao Ran had died in the heavenly prison. Although he had committed suicide by taking poison, in Imperial concubine Moon's eyes, her son had died by their hands. So if there was a new grudge added to the old grudge, it was understandable that she would use this opportunity to take revenge. That's right. Someone saw Consort Yu and the Moon Palace sect together. However, they were very secretive. They could not be arrested immediately. Xiao Su stroked her black hair, his voice cold. But don't worry. Xiao Liqi has already put them on the top arrest list. I believe that as long as they are still in the Sichuan, they will be caught. Chu Qingyan nodded. She had always been confident in Xiao Liqi's ability. That Lu Mama is already dead. I originally wanted to find some clues from her, but now the clues are gone. She was stunned. Their hands are really long. They even meddled with the harem? Xian Mo's eyes darkened. Xiao Su tightened his grip on her hand. These 2 days, the palace will be purged. You should stay in the hall. No matter what you hear or what happens, don't pay attention to it. Just take care of your baby. She wanted to say that she wasn't that weak, but seeing how nervous he was, she didn't want to bother him at this time. She nodded and said, I've never believed in supernatural forces or gods. Let them say whatever they want. But if there's anything that affects you or makes you feel uncomfortable, you have to tell me. Xiao Su's eyes flashed. He pretended to be relaxed and said, Don't worry, I'm the ruler of a country. No one dares to make things difficult for me. After fainting and talking to him so much when she woke up, Chu Qingyan began to look tired. Normally, she would be able to tell whether he was telling the truth or not, but at this time, she had no energy to distinguish. Her eyelids drooped and she yawned. I'm relieved to hear that. Xiao Su also noticed that she was tired. He laid her body flat, held her hand with one hand, and patted the quilt with the other. Go to sleep. I'm here for everything. Don't worry. Chu Qingyan wanted to say something, but she didn't have the energy to. She slowly fell asleep in his gentle and soft voice. As officials of the court, instead of clearing up those false rumors, you have gathered your people to come before me and force me to pay for your ignorance. You are unworthy of being officials, and you are not worthy of the court robes you are wearing. In order to continue my bloodline, my wife struggled on the line of life and death yesterday. You slandered her and slandered her because of these things. Do you think that it's easy to bully her when she's not here? I can put my words here. She is my wife. If you continue to make things difficult for her, I'll just give up my position as emperor. You can have whoever you want do it, so that you don't have to meddle in my family affairs again and again. Xiao Su's last words shocked the court. The civil and military officials wanted to say something to save the situation, but Xiao Su had already left, leaving everyone looking at each other in shock. That wasn't their purpose. They originally wanted to use this matter to make His Majesty hand over the Yao consort, and then expand the harem. How did it turn out like this in the end? Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao looked at each other. It seemed that they had really crossed their imperial brother's bottom line this time. They only felt that water had entered the heads of these officials. They wanted to play tricks, but they couldn't play enough with their imperial brother, okay? Just because he didn't want to be the emperor, he blocked everyone's way. Those old officials who relied on their little achievements had really taken a tumble this time. Ginger really didn't have to be spicier with age. The two didn't pay attention to the officials who had gathered to ask them for advice, and directly left to find their imperial brother. At this time, in a meditation hall of the Hugua Temple on Fenghuang Mountain, a green-robed monk with a handsome back and broad aura slowly opened his eyes while chanting. His eyes were compassionate and clear. He lightly tapped his finger a few times and then slightly frowned. She's in trouble again. It seemed that he had to come out of seclusion. Chapter 1503. When Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao arrived at the imperial study, they did not see their eldest brother, who was immersed in reviewing the memorials. They looked at each other in confusion. At this time, a eunuch beside them smiled and said, "His Majesty is currently in the imperial garden. This way, please." Xiao Ho was stunned. Could it be that imperial brother knew that they would come to find him, and specially arranged for someone to wait here? Without suspecting anything, the two of them followed the eunuch with their own thoughts. After walking through the winding corridors and passing through the flowers and willows, an exquisite pavilion appeared in front of them. The eunuch bowed and extended his hand. "His Majesty is in the pavilion. This way, please." The two of them nodded and walked through the stone path. After 2 or 3 flights of stairs, they saw a person pouring wine for himself. Xiao Su had always been self-disciplined. If it was not necessary, he would not touch a drop of wine. Now that Chu Qingyan was pregnant, he would not touch wine even more. Now, it seemed that he had really encountered something troublesome. The two of them thought of the matters in the imperial court and the imminent birth of their sister-in-law. The former had many things to worry about, while the latter worried about his heart. From dealing with imperial father's death to his ascension to the throne, imperial brother had never had a good rest. No matter how valiant he was, he could not withstand it. Xiao Yao walked up and poured a cup for Xiao Ho. Then he poured a cup for himself and sat down. There was no longer any politeness between the ruler and his subject. Instead, they were like brothers as they drank. "Come, let's drink. Let's toast to the things that happen every day." Xiao Su raised his cup. The three of them clinked their cups and drank it in one gulp. "Imperial brother, you didn't see it. Good fellow, after you left, the faces of those court officials were colorful. They were even more beautiful than a dye factory. It's a rare sight in 100 years. Xiao Yao deliberately livened up the atmosphere and imitated the behavior of the court officials. It was as funny as it could be. Xiao Ho was amused. When he turned his head, he saw that although Imperial Brother's brows had relaxed, his expression was still gloomy. "Imperial Brother, once we catch the mastermind, the rumors will naturally fall apart. You don't have to worry." Xiao Ho comforted. Xiao Yao shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. This is not as simple as my brother's fake imperial edict. This time, the person behind the scenes is taking advantage of the people's belief in the heavens. Even if they find out the culprit and tell the people that someone is spreading rumors and causing trouble, they may be skeptical at the time. However, once a natural disaster or man-made disaster occurs, they will think that it is the work of evil. In the end, It is still human nature that is causing trouble. As soon as he finished speaking, the temperature in the pavilion dropped by several degrees. Xiao face-bombed. Second brother really touched a sore spot. They weren't here to cause trouble, okay? Xiao also felt his imperial brother's eyes turn cold in an instant. He immediately picked up the wine jug and covered his face. He really wanted to slap himself a few times. He really talked too much. Second brother is right. You don't need to think about how to comfort me. At this point, deceiving oneself and others is not a smart move. Xiao took a sip of wine and said calmly. Only then did Xiao dare to put down the wine jug and move closer. Then in imperial brother's opinion, is there any way to deal with it? As soon as he said this, he only received a cold glance from his imperial brother. He couldn't help but be puzzled. What did he say wrong? Xiao shook his head in disappointment. If imperial brother had a way, you wouldn't be drinking wine here. He really didn't have good eyesight. Xiao rubbed his nose. Wasn't he confused because he was too concerned? However, this reminded him of something. Imperial brother, you were really impressive today. Although there is no way to deal with it at the moment, as long as you refuse to be the emperor like today, I believe that those people in the imperial court won't dare to say anything. This is also not a solution. Xiao shook his head. At this moment, Xiao was fiddling with his wine cup as he leaned lazily against the back of the chair. He didn't have the air of an emperor that he had during this period of time. Instead, he seemed a bit more sinister. Did you think that I was joking? The two of them didn't hear clearly, but they also seemed to be in disbelief. Imperial brother, what did you mean by what you said just now? Xiao lightly snorted. I had no choice but to accept the throne. Not because I wanted to. If either of you wants to take over, just say the word. I can immediately give you the edict of abdication. Xiao's body trembled. Xiao's mouth twitched. At this moment, the two of them thought. Imperial brother must be joking. As if he could tell what the two of them were thinking, Xiao directly said, I'm not joking. The weather is really good. It's very suitable for admiring flowers and drinking wine. Xiao waved his hand like a fan and said with a smile. Second brother is right. Why don't we go take a look in the garden? I wonder how the peony is growing. Xiao followed up with a look of great interest on his face. Just as the two of them were about to leave the pavilion with their arms around each other's shoulders, a cold voice came from behind them. Come back. The two of them somewhat dejectedly let go of each other and turned around with a bitter smile. All right, let's put this matter aside for now. Let's talk about the rumor. Xiao knew that these two fellows were also very lazy. Other members of the imperial family had a headache over why all the princes wanted to be emperor. When it came to him, it became why all the princes didn't want to be emperor. Others rushed like ducks, while they avoided it like a tiger. He really regretted taking on this terrible mess. Seeing that his imperial brother didn't mention that matter anymore, Xiao's brain immediately became smart. Let's investigate the source first. Since this matter spread so quickly, other than someone adding fuel to the fire, there should be other factors. Otherwise, it wouldn't have become such a powerful situation in such a short time. Xiao agreed with this. He carefully thought about the results of the recent investigation and reported one of the matters. I heard that someone took out imperial sister-in-law's birth characters and gave them to an enlightened monk to confirm the rumor that imperial sister-in-law was possessed by a demon. However, I've ordered people to find this enlightened monk, but there's still no news. It's very likely that someone is pretending to be imperial sister-in-law to confuse the public and increase the authenticity of the rumor. Often, people only wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. As for whether it was true or false, it wasn't that important. Xiao narrowed his eyes, as if he had found an entry point. Since they believe the enlightened monk so much, then we'll find an even more famous enlightened monk to dispel this rumor. Xiao and Xiao's eyes lit up. As expected of their eldest brother, he could find a way to dispel the rumor with just a little hint. All right, third brother, I'll leave this matter to you. You must complete it in the next few days. The rumor matter couldn't be delayed any longer. Xiao nodded. His imperial brother was so busy now, so it was natural for them to share more of his burden. Seeing that the matter was beginning to take shape, Xiao Su tossed his wine cup aside and planned to go back to accompany his wife. However, before he left, he said, "As for my suggestion just now, whenever you have any ideas, feel free to find me." Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao immediately fled. They wouldn't have any ideas, ever. The sun was shining brightly, and the wind was blowing gently. A monk in green robes wearing a bamboo hat and holding Buddhist prayer beads appeared at the bustling city gate. Behind him were two young monks. He raised his head and looked at the bustling streets. The corners of his mouth curved, revealing a benevolent smile. Then he walked in the direction of the imperial palace. Chapter 1504. Xiao Ho looked at the list of names that his subordinates had compiled. It was a list of the most influential eminent monks in the entire Xixian, but after he drew and sketched, there were only a few left. However, they were either wandering outside or missing. The only one that fit the description was Hugua Temple's Su Jian. This person's influence was unprecedented. His followers ranged from 80-year-old women to teenage girls. Just as Imperial sister-in-law had said, looks mattered in this world. However, he had heard that although Su Jian appeared benevolent and kind, he had never been involved in the secular world and hadn't left the temple for a long time. Would he be able to invite him? After all, this person didn't care about fame or fortune. It was a bit of a headache to have any weaknesses that could be used against him. At this moment, the person he had sent to keep an eye on Fenghuang Mountain returned with news. Su Jian has left the mountain? Xiao Ho was obviously shocked when he received the news. At the same time, another subordinate ran over. "Lord, someone saw Master Su Jian at the palace gates." This news was even more shocking. Xiao Ho felt like he had been hit by a pie. "Quick, prepare the horse. This prince needs to go to the palace gates." He hoped he could make it in time and not let Su Jian escape. However, when he arrived at the palace gates, he learned from the guards that Su Jian had already entered the palace, and that he had requested to see the emperor. Xiao Ho's eyes lit up. He immediately rushed to the palace to see his imperial brother. However, he was a step too late because Su Jian had already gone to Yansu Palace. Xiao Ho thought that since Su Jian had already arrived, there was nothing else for him to do. He planned to turn and leave, but a eunuch called out to him, "Lord, His Majesty wants you to go to Yansu Palace if you come." Xiao Ho raised his brows. He didn't suspect anything and walked toward Yansu Palace. On the way, he brought Xiao Yao along. At this moment in Yansu Palace, Chu Qingyan looked at the blue-robed monk in front of her. Her eyes were slightly warm. "I didn't expect you to come and see me. I'm very surprised and pleasantly surprised." At that time, he had saved her and left in a hurry. Almost a year had passed. She remembered that when she had just transmigrated, other than Big Ice Cube and the others, the only friends she knew were him and Xiao Ran and Dongting. Now he was the only one left. She was also in her pregnancy period, so her heart was filled with endless emotions. Xiao Su knew that Su Jian had unknowingly helped the little fellow a lot, including saving her life. However, even though Su Jian was a monk, he still couldn't stand the sight of the little fellow's red nose and red eyes. He was a typical possessive person, but his rationality allowed him to suppress his jealousy. Su Jian put his palms together, and his eyes were calm. However, he concealed the joy of meeting again after a long time. No one knew about it. "This poor monk and you are fated to meet. I have divined that you are in trouble, so I came down the mountain to visit you. I hope I can help you." Su Jian's straightforward words stunned both of them. However, Xiao Su was the first to react. "Master, are you talking about the rumors outside?" Su Jian nodded and chanted, Ba before saying, "The rumors are not true and have already affected the foundation of the country. The heavens have the virtue of cherishing life, allowing Sichuan to usher in a prosperous ruler. We can't allow the living to fall into misery and suffering. Moreover, Qingyan is this poor monk's close friend. This poor monk can't sit by and do nothing. Today, I came down the mountain in hopes that I can do what I can to help His Majesty quell this disaster." Xiao Su couldn't be more grateful. "Thank you for thinking this way, Master. Indeed, we need your help this time." Su Jian laughed. "This poor monk is very willing to help." Chu Qingyan listened to their back and forth, and was a little confused. Big Ice Cube, how can Su Jian help us? At this moment, before Xiao Su could turn around, another voice had already spoken up. The reason why the rumors spread like wildfire was because a fake monk was spouting nonsense. Now that Master Su Jian, a righteous monk, is here to testify that imperial sister-in-law isn't a demon, the rumors will naturally fall apart. No one will dare to say anything about this matter anymore. Xiao Ho stepped in, followed by Xiao Yao. The two of them appeared in front of everyone in an elegant manner. Greetings, Master Su Jian. The two of them bowed in greeting. Su Jian stood up. Greetings, Your Highnesses. After Xiao Ho's explanation, Chu Qingyan finally understood. As expected, pregnancy made one dumb for 3 years. Su Jian, thank you so much. Chu Qingyan was very touched. Su Jian smiled generously. It's nothing. Don't mention it. Since Su Jian was already here, Xiao Ho saved himself the trouble of looking for him. He directly said to everyone, leave this matter to me. In less than 2 days, the news that Master Su Jian had appeared in the palace to pray for the new emperor's unborn child spread like wildfire. In an instant, it swept through the entire capital, and even the surrounding towns. Didn't the new emperor not have a concubine yet? Where did the child come from? You're so ignorant. Don't you know that His Majesty already had a fiancée when he was still lord? Who was it? The Chu clan's 5th miss. Ah, isn't that the demon who was possessed by the rumors 2 days ago? What nonsense are you spouting? What kind of person was Master Su Jian? Could he just casually pray for others? It must be that Miss Chu's benevolence that made Master Su pray for her child. That's true. If she really was a demon, Master Su would have already subdued her. Right. Hey, do you think Miss Chu's child will be a dragon or phoenix? I'm guessing it'll be a dragon. That's the first one. It'll definitely be a dragon. No, I've seen Miss Chu before. She's a peerless beauty. I think she should give birth to a phoenix, a little princess as beautiful as Miss Chu. No, I bet on a prince. No, I bet on a princess. Thus, just as the demon storm was about to dissipate, another storm was stirred up. That was to determine whether Chu Qingyan's child would be a boy or a girl. At one point, there were even people who quarreled endlessly over this, and even fought over it. Thus, the people set up gambling houses to bet on whether the Sichuan dynasty would welcome a prince or a princess this time. As for whether it was a demon or a calamity, no one cared anymore. When Consort Yu found out about this, she hurriedly ordered people to start spreading rumors again. Unfortunately, this was like throwing a stone into the sea. It didn't cause any waves. She was so angry that she almost shattered her teeth from clenching them. No matter, she still had a backup plan. On this day, Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao went out together and happened to see someone setting up a gambling house. Xiao Yao was itching to join in, so he dragged his unwilling younger brother and squeezed in with him. However, when they saw the wager written on the board, their expressions changed slightly. I didn't expect things to develop in this direction. It's simply too unexpected. Xiao Yao was dumbfounded. Xiao Ho rubbed his chin. Looks like royal sister-in-law is a hot topic. Then do you want to play? Xiao Yao winked at him. Xiao Ho smiled. Come, let's try our luck. Chu Qingyan, who was playing chess with Su Jian, sneezed. She rubbed her nose, completely unaware that she had become a popular topic among the people again. Chapter 1505. Seeing her sneeze, Su Jian asked with concern, Did the wind blow you? Chu Qingyan waved her hand and said nonchalantly, It's fine. I'm not as weak as you think. It's your turn to move. Su Jian sized her up and saw that her complexion was rosy and healthy. Only then did he relax and place a piece on the board. She had been resting for the past 2 days and hadn't been able to see him much. Today, she had invited him over to catch up. Chu Qingyan thought about her next move as she called out. These are some pastries that I specially ordered the Imperial Kitchen to prepare for you. Try them. Su Jian readily picked up a piece. The light green pastry sparkled under the sunlight and was very appetizing. He smiled and said, Qingyan, you're so considerate. Chu Qingyan rested her chin on one hand and chuckled. Don't be so polite. You already said that I'm your close friend. Of course I have to be considerate when entertaining a close friend. Besides, I didn't do it. I was just moving my lips. Also, you've helped me a lot this time. Adding up the new and old favors, I feel like I can't repay you enough. Su Jian thought to himself, then don't repay me. If you owe me, at least you'll have something to remember. There's no need to be so calculative between friends, he replied with a faint smile. Suddenly, the delicate girl in front of him stared at him without blinking. He was used to being looked at by thousands of people, but now he felt a little uncomfortable. He coughed and avoided her gaze. He pretended to be calm and asked, "What are you looking at?" Chu Qingyan didn't notice his actions. She sighed exaggeratedly and said, "Su Jian, I actually feel that it's a pity. Someone like you who has outstanding looks, temperament, and character shouldn't stay in Buddhism, and let the mountain gate seal away your elegance. Do you know? With your looks, people will throw flowers at you on the streets. As long as you're a disciple of the secular world, you'll have fans ranging from little children to old women. There won't be too many of them." Su Jian was amused by her exaggerated words. Her face was like a painting in front of him. He had never paid much attention to appearances, but at this moment, when he looked into her bright black eyes, it was as if he could see flowers blooming like a piece of brocade. He saw the blue sea and the blue sky, boundless and endless. He knew that he was possessed. He reined in his emotions and put his palms together. Appearance is only an illusion created by the soul. It can't withstand the grinding of time. Only with a steady heart can one not be affected by the changes of time. If one is too attached to external factors, it won't be easy for one's mind to be stable, because it will be easy to be tempted. It will be even easier to be tempted by the secular world. Wait. She raised her hands in surrender. I give up. I won't talk about this topic with you anymore. Otherwise, you'll always be thinking about Tang Sung. A curious baby came online. Who is Tang Sanzang? Chu Qingyan grunted. All right, she had dug a hole for herself and jumped into it. She wanted to say a few words to fool him, but when she looked up, she saw that his eyes were sparkling. He was looking at her with a very sincere curiosity. She couldn't stand such a pure gaze. She could only bite into her pastry while telling him the story of a senior monk who brought 3 disciples and a horse to the Western paradise in search of Buddhist scriptures. Time passed little by little. Su Jian looked at the beautiful girl in front of him who was dancing with joy as she spoke. His eyes softened like a pool of lake water. Bits and pieces of the past appeared in front of him. When we first met, I advised you to enter Buddhism, and you advised me to enter the secular world. Now I have unknowingly entered the secular world. I wanted to help you become a Buddha, but I didn't expect you to help me become a human. Master said that I should face this tribulation in this life. I tried my best to guard against it, but I couldn't resist fate. Forget it, that's it. From now on, I will atone for my sins to Buddha. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Xiao appeared in the courtyard. When he saw the 2 of them playing chess, he stood to the side and didn't disturb them. When Chu Qingyan saw that Xiao had arrived, she sighed and said, "Looks like we won't be able to beat the white bone demon 3 times. It doesn't matter. There will be plenty of time in the future." Su Jian put the chess piece in his hand back into the box and shook his head with a smile. I lost. Chu Qingyan was interrupted and instantly forgot to sigh. She was overjoyed. My chess skills have improved again. Not only did I win against the big ice cube, but I also won against you. Ha ha ha. Looks like I'm going to be invincible in the world. Xiao looked at the chess game and shook his head inwardly. It was obvious that Su Jian had let her win. However, if his eldest brother had let her win because he doted on her, then why did this great master do it? Just as Xiao was puzzled, Su Jian had already stood up and walked toward him. Isn't it time? Then let's go. In order to clear Imperial sister-in-law's name, a lecture on scriptures was arranged for the civil and military officials free of charge. When the officials heard that Su Jian was holding the fort, they were so happy that they wanted to burn incense to their ancestors. Although Su Jian was famous, he often wandered around and rarely lectured in a fixed place. Moreover, this lecture was full, so it was difficult to get a single lecture. The officials were so excited. Xiao bowed and extended his hand. "Great master, this way please." Behind him, Chu Qingyan waved with a smile. "I wish you success in your brainwashing." Su Jian curled his lips and slowly walked away. Walking on the road, they passed by the imperial garden. An eminent monk and a handsome lord. Against the backdrop of hundreds of flowers, they were as beautiful as a painting. It's all thanks to great master's help this time. Otherwise we wouldn't have been so kind. As the emperor, his elder brother wasn't good with words. As his younger brother, he could only do it for him. Su Jian smiled faintly. "You're welcome, Prince Yi." The two were walking beside an orchid. Perhaps it was because the wind was too strong, or because a palace servant had accidentally broken the branch. Xiao was a lover of flowers. He couldn't help but stop and bend down to pick up the branch. He looked at it with pity, then handed it to the palace servant behind him. Only then did he continue walking with Su Jian. "Your Highness is so compassionate towards flowers. It's clear that you're a kind-hearted person," Su Jian said. Xiao smiled faintly. "I grew up in the imperial family and have seen plenty of blood. My hands can't be considered compassionate." Su Jian smiled. "It's not like what Lord said. Since you've let go of your hatred, then everything is a thing of the past. Now that you treat your brothers with sincerity and do your best for the people, the sins of the past are slowly being washed away." Xiao looked at him in surprise. Su Jian looked back at him with compassionate eyes. This person should have already disappeared from the world. But because of a woman's appearance he managed to avoid death, so the heavens have the virtue of cherishing life. Since you've already turned back and forgiven your sins, then what you've lost will return. As long as your heart is benevolent, everything will not be too late. After Su Jian said this, he put his palms together and chanted, "Amitba, Amitba, 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 Amitba." Xiao stared blankly as the monk's robe brushed past the door before disappearing behind it. What was lost would return. As long as one's heart was kind, there was still time. What did he mean by that? He patted his head lightly. It seemed that his sister-in-law was right. This person really did look like a fraud. He shook his head with a smile and turned to leave. Inside the door, Su Jian smiled and closed his eyes. The fate of this life was over. The fate of this pair of good men and women was not yet over. Chapter 1506. After Su Jian left, Chu Qingyan ordered Xining to put away the chessboard. She held a cup of hot water with both hands and sipped it intermittently. It could be said that the past 6 months had been the most peaceful time she had been here. Without the Chu family's coercion, the Empress's difficulties and the pressure of war, she and the Big Ice Cube welcomed a relatively relaxed life. Now, she was also waiting for the arrival of the little fellow in her belly. Then the circle between her and the Big Ice Cube would be complete. "Master, do you want to go for a walk?" Xining asked considerately after cleaning up the table. Chu Qingyan thought for a moment, then put down the cup. "Let's go to my mother's place." Xining and Jasper hurried over, each supporting her. Now that the little master was full term and would give birth in 2 days, they had to be careful. When Ethereal heard the news, she also put down what she was doing and stayed by her side to wait on her. At this time, there was no room for any mishaps. Now the trip became a mighty group of people. Chu Qingyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry at their serious expressions. "My mother lives next door. You don't have to make such a big fuss." Ethereal looked like they had heard her opinion, but they didn't intend to listen. She was helpless. In the past she was a pregnant woman, so she was the boss. Now everyone was her boss. Forget it, forget it. Let them be. Chu Mu's mother lived in the palace next to Yen Su's palace. Now she wasn't the only one living in the palace. Chu Mu's father, who had returned a few days ago, was also there. But for some reason, Chu Mu's father had a high fever on the day he returned from the border happily. Although the fever had subsided, he was still unconscious. Ethereal and the imperial doctors in the palace couldn't find the cause of his illness. They could only attribute it to overwork. Chu Qingyan was very worried, but it was fine as long as he was fine. Chu Machen's mother, who had received the news, was already waiting at the door of the hall. When she saw Chu Machen, she immediately walked up and held her daughter's hand. She scolded her softly. "Why don't you stay in the hall and have a good rest at this time? If you want to see your mother, you can send someone to summon me. You don't have to come here in person." Chu Qingyan said coquettishly. "It's just 2 steps, it won't get in the way. Besides, Ethereal also said that walking more is beneficial for the birth. So mother, you don't have to worry. Besides, I also wanted to see father today." "You're so eloquent. I can't win against you." Mrs. Chu laughed and shook her head. She held her mother's hand and pouted coquettishly. "Isn't it because mother loves me?" Chu Machen's mother smiled and helped her into the hall. Walking into the inner hall, Chu Qingyan saw her father lying on the bed. His sleeping appearance was as peaceful as ever. Her heart skipped a beat. "Mother, is father still the same?" Chu Machen's mother sighed and sat down by the bed. She wiped Chu Machen's face with a handkerchief and said slowly, "He's been like this ever since he came back. He's been sleeping like this ever since your father was sent back." She was referring to the battle 16 years ago where the entire army was annihilated. Chu Qingyan turned to look at Ethereal. Ethereal understood and walked up to Chu Machen's mother. "Old madam, I'll take old master's pulse again." Chu Machen's mother stepped aside. Ethereal sat down and focused on taking Chu Machen's pulse. After a while he stood up and said to the two of them, "Old master's physical condition is still fine. He doesn't have a fever anymore. It's no different from sleeping. You still can't find out why he's still not waking up?" Chu Qingyan frowned worriedly. Ethereal shook his head awkwardly. "There's nothing wrong with old master's body. As for why he's not waking up, I have no clue at all." But what?" Chu Qingyan was a little anxious. "Just say what you want to say. There's nothing you can't say." Ethereal nodded and told her his conjecture for the past 2 days. When old master recalled his memories, he had a high fever. He's having a fever again this time. I think it might be related to what happened last time. After Ethereal's reminder, she also remembered. "Is this good or bad?" Ethereal shook his head. "I can't say for sure. I've checked the medical records. It's possible that his brain was stimulated, and he fell into a coma again. But when he'll wake up, it could be now, or it could be that he'll never wake up." Chu Machen's mother swayed. Fortunately, the palace maid beside her supported her and prevented her from falling to the ground. Yuanlong's life is too bitter. He's already been cleared of the defeat 16 years ago, but he still has to bear the pain of being framed by thieves for the rest of his life. Heaven is really too unfair. Chu Machen's mother thumped her chest, feeling very upset. She didn't expect him to accumulate military achievements to bring glory to his ancestors. She only wanted him to live well and stay by her side. Chu Qingyan hurriedly ordered people to support her mother. At this moment, she also had mixed feelings in her heart. She walked to the front of the bed and held her father's hand. She said tenderly and fondly, "Father, you have to wake up quickly. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the baby when it's born." After comforting her mother, Chu Qingyan led people back to Yansu Palace. "Master, you don't have to worry too much. Heaven helps the worthy. Old master has been through great storms in the past. He'll definitely be able to do it this time." Xining comforted her. Chu Qingyan patted her hand and sighed softly, "I hope so." Just a few steps away from Yansu Palace, Chu Qingyan felt waves of throbbing pain in her lower abdomen. She originally thought that it was a habitual throbbing pain like in the past, and would be fine after a while. However, this time the pain didn't slow down. Instead, it became more and more intense. Chu Qingyan took a deep breath and then grabbed Xining's hand. She looked calmly at Ethereal, who was walking beside her, and said, "I'm afraid that I'm going to give birth." When these words were said, everyone trembled. Especially Ethereal, when she heard her little princess consort's calm tone, as if she was going to eat a melon. She almost exploded. Hurry, hurry, help your master into the hall. Someone come and prepare hot water. Hurry, call the midwife. The originally quiet palace immediately became lively and anxious. In the past few days, the palace had undergone a great purge. As expected, many spies were swept out. For a moment, the palace was heavily guarded. Even a fly couldn't fly in. But even so, Xiao still felt a little uneasy in his heart. It seemed that the purge this time was too smooth, so he kept feeling that something was wrong. However, everything seemed to be so logical that he couldn't find any clues. Master, are you troubled? Turin couldn't help but ask when he saw his master frowning. Xiao was silent for a moment before saying, recently, the palace needs to be patrolled more. It's best to send more people near Yansu Palace. Take out a group of elites and take turns guarding 24 hours a day. Turin had just nodded in response when there were hurried footsteps outside. Turin wanted to go out and take a look to scold who was so unruly, but the people outside didn't stop that person, and just let him in. When Turin saw him, he found that it was Xiao of Yansu Palace. He thought, why are you in such a hurry? What happened to the little princess consort? As soon as Xiao came in, he didn't care about anything else and rushed to the new emperor panting, Your Majesty, Nyang is going to give birth. As soon as he finished speaking, he looked up again. The bright yellow robe in front of him had already disappeared like a whirlwind. At this time, in another palace, the sleeping person slowly moved her fingers. Her mouth opened and closed as she laboriously said, I want to see my grandson. Chapter 1507. When Xiao arrived, the inner hall was already locked tight and could not be entered. Jin Xian was responsible for guarding the outside. When he saw Xiao, he immediately went forward and said, Your Majesty, before Mistress went in, she told you to wait outside at ease and not be impulsive. Because giving birth in ancient times was too unlucky, husbands were usually not allowed to enter. But Chu Qingyan came from the modern era and did not have such thoughts. She just felt that giving birth was the ugliest. She did not want him to see her screaming herself hoarse. That would be a shadow for the rest of her life. Not just Jin Xian. A group of people were guarding outside, afraid that this new emperor would rush in because he doted on his little Wang Fei too much. No matter how worried Xiao was now, he would not be so muddle-headed as to rush into the delivery room. It was not that he cared about whether it was unlucky or not, but he knew that his presence was too strong, and he was afraid of scaring the midwives. He could not accept any mishap happening to his wife and child. Xiao and Xiao had been in the palace. When they received the news, they immediately rushed over. The two had never experienced this kind of situation before. It was the first time a young lady had been on a sedan. It was not right to be anxious with their imperial brother. So Xiao, this hedonist, immediately gave orders to the gong beside him. Soon a table, chairs, tea, and snacks were placed in the hall. Xiao immediately called for the two brothers to sit and rest. Come. We can't do anything outside. Why don't we talk about the interesting things that have happened recently? Xiao did not think that he would not forget to have fun at this time, and was convinced. But thinking about it from another angle, he was also trying to divert his imperial brother's attention. But who knew that Xiao waved his hand? You guys chat. He dismissed him. Xiao almost choked and could not speak. He pointed at Xiao and said to Xiao, But this is the first time I've seen imperial brother so uneasy. So rare. Xiao laughed softly. If it was your wife inside, you would not be sitting here drinking tea with a clear conscience. Finishing, his heart skipped a beat because the scene in his dream that night unconsciously appeared in his mind. The little rascal suddenly opened her eyes and said with tears, she was about to give birth. Even though she had not entered his dreams since then, but that scene, every time he closed his eyes, he would remember it. Xiao unconsciously tightened his grip on the cup. If Xiao's reminder, the teacup would have been destroyed in his hands. All of you look so dejected. Xiao shook his head. Forget it, I'll drink it myself. Grandfather, why are you always appearing? Hearing Xiao's sobbing, Xiao turned around and saw retired emperor who was still drinking tea. Then he looked at his frightened Ji and couldn't help smiling as he stood up and bowed. Greetings to Imperial Grandfather. At a time like this, there's no need for these empty formalities. The retired emperor waved his hand and looked deeply at this third imperial grandson. In the past, he always felt that this third grandson was strange and gloomy, but now that he had been reborn, the retired emperor was very satisfied. He looked at him affectionately and patted Xiao Yao's head. Who told you to drink so happily that you didn't even know that I was here? Xiao Yao felt very wronged. Ever since he was young, his grandfather loved to bully him the most. The retired emperor didn't pay any attention to his grandson who only knew how to play dumb. He looked at his eldest grandson who was standing restlessly, as if he was looking at a rare treasure. Then he raised his hand and pointed at the ice dregs. He said to the two beside him, "Look, this big ice dregs is also emitting heat. It's human." Xiao Yao was still squatting in the corner and drawing circles. Xiao Ho nodded noncommittally. It's indeed changed a lot. It's all thanks to royal sister-in-law. The retired emperor stroked his beard and said, "Indeed, so Qing Yan and her son will definitely be safe." Although he didn't understand how his grandfather's irrelevant words connected, Xiao Ho thought that the mother and child would definitely be safe. Xiao Su paced back and forth, his gaze never leaving the inner hall. He opened his ears and constantly captured the sounds inside, hoping to hear something. But at this time, basin after basin of bloody water was carried out. Xiao Su's body trembled as he stared at the bloody water. The palace maids holding the basins were so scared that their legs almost went soft. Xiao Yao saw the bloody water and sucked in a breath. Oh my God, this baby was scared to death. Xiao Ho looked inside the door with some worry. At this time, Xiao Su already couldn't hold back and wanted to rush in. What reason? What waiting? Damn it all to hell. The retired emperor immediately had Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao stop him. The two of them spent a lot of effort to keep him outside. At this time, the retired emperor walked in front of Xiao Su and said resentfully, "You silly boy, you haven't seen the world yet. Giving birth is like this. You will get used to it after giving birth to a few more. Now you know your mother's pain. So in the future, you must know how to be filial to your mother." These words made them fall silent. One mother had already died of old age, and no longer had any contact with them. One mother had entered Buddhism, and was preparing to concentrate on cultivation. One mother had already been separated by heaven and man, and would never see each other again. The retired emperor also thought of this and sighed. He patted each of them on the shoulder. This is the sorrow of being born in the imperial family. You guys, don't let the next generation follow in your footsteps. Take it easy. Xiao Ho and Xiao Yao nodded as they were taught. Xiao Su's mind wasn't on this at all. He was scratching his heart and lungs, really wanting to go in and see how the little fellow was doing. At this time, the inner hall was indeed burning with anxiety and chaos. Because at the beginning of the pain, Chu Qingyan could still bear it and didn't cry out. Xiao Su couldn't hear anything from outside. But now she couldn't. This kind of pain was different from the pain of martial arts and fighting injuries. She couldn't bear the pain and cried out a few times. Outside, Xiao Su's mind filled in her painful cries as wails, and he almost charged in again. She naturally didn't know what was going on outside. She only felt that she was in so much pain that she wanted to die. She secretly gritted her teeth. This baby is in so much pain. After giving birth to this baby, she won't give birth anymore. But how could there be so many things in life that she could predict? But this was a story for later. Let's not talk about it for now. Your Highness, the head is coming out. Quickly use more strength. The midwife cried out in alarm. Chu Qingyan originally didn't have much strength, but when she heard this, she immediately used all her strength. With this strength, it seemed like something slipped out. She cried out in surprise, "It's coming out, it's coming out." As a man, Ethereal couldn't go in. But Chu Qingyan didn't have much confidence in the ancient midwifery techniques. So before this, she had him wait at the side in case of any accidents. Hearing this, Ethereal immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He could answer to his master now. But at this time, the midwife, who was silently working at the side, suddenly snatched the baby that had just been carried out. She took a few steps back and raised the baby up high. With a sinister expression, she said, "Haha, I finally got it. Chu Qingyan, you also have this day." The unforeseen event happened in an instant. No one could react in time. Chu Qingyan heard this in a daze and woke up with a start. "What are you doing to my child?" "Consort you orders to let you experience the pain of losing your flesh and blood," that person said and ruthlessly threw the baby to the ground. "Don't." Chapter 1508. The child, who hadn't been cleaned, had his eyes tightly shut. Before he could open his eyes to see the world, he was ruthlessly smashed to the ground. No one was by the old woman's side. Even if they wanted to save the child, it was too late. They could only watch as the child suffered a tragic fate. Chu Qingyan's heart was gripped. She felt as if she couldn't breathe and her heart was about to break. In the blink of an eye, a jade-green figure pounced towards the ground and caught the child, who had been thrown to the ground. Unable to withstand the momentum, the figure rolled a few times and smashed into a pillar. However, after stabilizing her body, Jasper raised her head and grinned at her master. "The little master is fine. This subordinate has protected him." Jasper rarely smiled, but this smile was like sunlight shining into everyone's hearts. They couldn't help but smile with her. Jasper was originally a member of the Howling Cavalry. Later, she was transferred to her master's side as an attendant. She could usually serve tea and water, but she didn't know anything about midwifery. Thus, she could only guard in the corner of the hall like a shadow. The old woman had been paying attention to everyone and didn't notice Jasper, who was like a ghost. Thus, by a freak combination of factors, she retreated to her side, allowing Jasper to seize the opportunity to act. As she spoke, a trace of blood overflowed from the corner of her mouth. However, she didn't care. She wiped it away and stood up. Only then did Chu Qingyan completely relax her body. She had been so shocked, and she had used up all her energy to give birth. The moment she heaved a sigh of relief, she fainted. "Master!" "Little Princess Consort." After hearing the little fellow's mournful cries, Xiao pushed away his two brothers with a single palm strike and quickly entered the inner hall. At this time, as luck would have it, he pushed open the door and heard them shouting for the little fellow. He staggered and almost tripped over the doorsill and fell down. He didn't care about his status or elegance. His entire person seemed to have lost his soul as he directly threw himself at the person with pale cheeks on the floor. His trembling hands caressed her face. "Ian, don't scare me. Wake up. You can't abandon me. Let's not have any more children. I just want you to wake up." Xining raised her hand weakly. "Your Majesty, Master just fainted from exhaustion and will wake up later. If you don't want the little prince like this, he will be sad in the future." Xiao's mind was still on the woman he loved on the couch. He didn't react until Xining finished speaking. He stared at Xining. "You said Ian just fainted and her life isn't in danger?" Xining couldn't help but shudder when she was stared at by his dark eyes. It was as if she dared to say that her master wouldn't wake up, she would be killed by his gaze. She hurriedly nodded. Yes, there's no danger. Don't worry." Before Xiao could react, something soft was suddenly stuffed into his arms. He lowered his head and saw a wrinkled baby biting its little finger, sleeping soundly. His first reaction was, "So ugly. Everyone." This was probably the first child since the founding of the Sichuan Empire that his imperial father didn't want him as soon as he was born. It was also the first child that his imperial father disliked for being ugly as soon as he was born. At this moment, the baby's heart was crumbling. This baby wants mommy, not daddy. After experiencing the two great joys and sorrows of life, Xiao seemed to have lost all his strength. He sat on the couch and raised his hand to stroke his wife tenderly. He then looked down at his son, who was sucking his finger. He suddenly felt that there was no moment more perfect than this. At this moment, Ethereal saw that her master's emotions had calmed down and began to report what had just happened. That old woman was also a martial artist. She originally thought that she would be able to complete her task, but who knew that someone would come out of the blue? When Ethereal saw that she had been rescued, she immediately subdued the old woman and threw her to the palace servants. Only then did she dare to go forward to report to her master. As soon as she finished speaking, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became a few degrees colder. Everyone rubbed their arms, feeling as if they were about to freeze to death. Xiao handed the child to Xining, then stood up and slowly walked towards the old woman. Step by step, it was as if he was stepping on a glacier. Even the old woman, who had a fearless expression just now, couldn't help but want to retreat, but she was caught and couldn't move. You were sent by Fu Yue? His tone was cold and his gaze was as cold as ink, as if the person in front of him was already a dead person. So what if I am? Don't think that you can sit back and relax just because you're sitting in this position now. Master said that you will pay for. Before she could finish speaking, the old woman flew out like a kite with a broken string and landed heavily on the ground. No one saw Xiao make a move, but the old woman was sent flying. It was obvious that this person's martial arts skills were superb. You're overestimating yourself. At this time, Ethereal seemed to have discovered something. He quickly walked over and reached out to touch the old woman's face. Soon he tore off a human skin mask. Ethereal was shocked. He didn't expect this person to be able to wander around under his nose for several months without being discovered. He turned around and knelt down in front of the person behind him. Think carefully about how you're going to explain this to me. Xiao threw down these words, then flung his sleeves and walked back. Ethereal prostrated himself on the ground, unable to say a word. Because of his negligence, the little prince had almost been. The people outside had been waiting impatiently for a long time. But these people were all shrewd people. They had already smelt something unusual in the air. At this time, no matter how worried and nervous they were, they could only firmly suppress it. At this time, a child wrapped in bright yellow swaddling clothes appeared in front of everyone. This is this emperor's good great-grandson. Good. The emperor emeritus took the child. After knowing that it was a boy, he couldn't stop smiling. Although it was a bit regretful that it wasn't a girl, it was already very good that both mother and child were safe. So wrinkled like a monkey. Xiao, who had just squeezed over to take a look and spoke the truth, was rudely knocked on the head by his imperial grandfather. Xiao stared at the child without blinking. The more he looked, the more he doted on him. Imperial grandfather, let grandson hold him. The emperor emeritus very straightforwardly handed the child to him, even reminding him to be careful. Xiao pursed his lips. Imperial grandfather, you're too biased. You won't let me hold him, but let Lao Sen hold him. The emperor emeritus glanced at him unhappily, as if to say, look at how clumsy you are. Alright, third prince went to squat in the corner and draw circles again. The emperor emeritus laughed mischievously. He turned to look at Xiao's fondness and stroked his beard. If you like it, then give birth to one yourself. Xiao only smiled when he heard this. The emperor emeritus naturally knew about the incident between him and Pang Zhijing. He thought that this was a child with a hard life, so he didn't say anything else. Instead, he turned to Pat Hualing, who was nervously looking at the little prince. Don't look, we won't touch your little master. That's right, where is your master? He's with the little princess consort. Hualing laughed mischievously as he replied. Master said, you can play with the child as you wish. It's fine as long as you don't disturb him. The emperor emeritus rolled his eyes. He didn't even want a newborn son. As expected, he was someone who didn't want anything when he had a wife. Chapter 1509. It was almost evening, and the crowd dispersed, leaving the family of three alone. Xiao was clumsily holding his crying son. He was a little flustered. He didn't know why, but the child began to cry while sleeping well, so he shook his arms to coax him. Chu Qingyan opened her eyes and saw this scene. Although she felt it was funny, she also felt touched. Maybe he's hungry. Bring him over and I'll feed him. As soon as this soft and weak voice came out, Xiao immediately walked up with joy. Ian, you're awake. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? I just feel weak all over. Everything else is fine. Seeing that she woke up and was smiling as sweetly as before, Xiao couldn't help but reach out and hug her. It's good that you're fine. She was a little surprised by his excitement and the extreme emotions in his eyes. It seemed that something had happened while she was asleep that she didn't know about. At this moment, their son's loud cry disrupted the little atmosphere that had just started to develop between the two of them. Chu Qingyan quickly asked him to give the child to her. Xiao Su frowned. This child really knew how to cause trouble, but he obediently handed over his son. Seeing that the little guy was so satisfied with the child, Xiao Su's heart ached. It seemed that the little guy would no longer be his alone in the future. Xiao Su sighed. Forget it, forget it. Seeing that he was still a little small, he would reluctantly give in to him. So the baby didn't know that he was despised by his own papa again. At this time he was focused on drinking milk. At this time the baby was moist and no longer wrinkled. Chu Qingyan looked down at the baby. Water Spirit was so cute that her heart couldn't help but melt. He's so good-looking. Xiao Su thought that beauty was indeed in the eye of the beholder. He was so ugly when he was just born. Seeing that the little guy was so focused on his son that she didn't even look at him, Xiao Su felt for the first time in his life what it meant to be left out. Although he did not want to admit this feeling, he could not help but want to correct his own sense of existence. He cleared his throat and said, "The old woman who wanted to hurt you and your child has confessed." Then he picked out some important things to tell her. Only after the big ice cube mentioned it did she remember this matter. She gave a cold snort. "I didn't think that imperial concubine you would be this crazy. She actually thinks that Xiao Ran was killed by us. Wasn't it all because of her that Xiao Ran ended up like that? I've never seen such a ruthless mother." Perhaps it was because she was already a mother, but Chu Qingyan hated Consort you even more. The child in her arms was small, soft, and so cute. Every parent would want to see their child grow up and give them the best. They couldn't wait to love them. So why would they force them to do something they didn't want to do and let them go astray? Xiao Su was not surprised by the little guy's righteous indignation. He held her in his arms and said softly, "Don't be angry because of others." She leaned against his chest and held her child in her arms. At this moment, she felt a different kind of happiness and joy in her heart. Big Ice Cube, we have to be a pair of good parents and teach our child well. We don't expect him to be great. We just hope that he can be an indomitable man. Hearing the person in his arms softly describe the future, Xiao Su felt that his heart was more complete. Yes, I'll teach him to strengthen his body, and you teach him how to be a man. However, no matter how mediocre my child is, he will be the best one. Chu Qingyan nodded heavily. She thought of something and looked up with sparkling eyes. Big Ice Cube, let's give him a nickname. What do you think? Xiao Su looked at her gently. She lowered her head and thought for a while before saying seriously, "After what happened today, I found that no matter how much I hope for the child, it's just that he can be safe and happy and have a smooth life. So let's call him Nkong. As for his name, you can give it to him after you think about it. It's up to you." At this time, Xiao Su doted on his wife. Even if she gave him 2 dogs and 3 cats, he would still nod his head. Receiving the Big Ice Cube's response, Chu Qingyan lowered her head to tease her son. "Nkong, I'll call you Nkong from now on. I only hope that you will be safe and healthy." After feeding the child, Chu Qingyan hugged Nkong and coaxed him, letting him sleep peacefully in her arms. At this time Hualing stumbled in. Xiao Su wanted to scold him for being so rash, but Hualing's words stunned the two of them. "Master, little Princess Consort, the old man has woken up." This was great news. Chu Qingyan was so excited that she almost died. She had just given birth and was about to get out of bed to take a look, but Xiao Su held her back. She only stopped when he looked at her disapprovingly. She suppressed her emotions and grabbed the Big Ice Cube's hand. She said with tears in her eyes, "Big Ice Cube, did you hear that? My father is awake, he's awake. The heavens really did not mistreat any good person. I heard it. Father-in-law is awake, so you should be relieved." But Hualing muttered in his heart, "I can't be relieved. If you see the old man's current state, I'm afraid." At this time, the sound of bustling footsteps came from afar, and there seemed to be a voice shouting. Chu Qingyan listened carefully. The voice was very familiar, and she immediately became excited. "Big Ice Cube, it seems like father is here." Xiao Su also heard the voice. He was about to respond, but the person had already entered the inner hall, and ran in front of them. Kai Kai, father's good daughter, let father see his grandson. A handsome man with a straw nest on his head spoke up. Chu Qingyan blinked. She didn't have time to react as she obediently handed the child over. Xiao Su reminded him from the side. Father-in-law, it's your grandson. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's still father's good baby. Father Chu glared at his son-in-law. Then he began to shake his arms, foolishly looking at the baby in his arms. Yo, this nose is like father's. Yo, these eyes are like his grandmother's. Yo, this mouth is also like his grandmother's. Chu Qingyan was stunned. How is that like me? Father Chu looked for a long time. This drooling looks like you. Chu Qingyan cried out, and threw herself into her big ice cube's arms. Xiao Su patted her back to comfort her. At least she still had some similarities. When the little master was born, Hualing had already held him. At this time he quietly interjected. This subordinate feels that the little master resembles master in every way. After saying that, Father Chu slapped him on the head. What nonsense are you spouting? Thus, the reunion that was supposed to be a tearful reunion turned into a scene that didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When Mother Chu rushed over with people and saw this scene, she couldn't help but laugh. But Father Chu still looked a little strange. It was as if he no longer had the clarity he had when he was leading the charge. Xiao Su put this question in his heart and planned to have Ethereal take a good look at him. Chapter 15:10. When Ethereal checked Mr. Chu's pulse again, he found that his pulse was normal. However, he could not understand why he had returned to his previous state. Chu Qingyan looked at her father worriedly. Father, do you still remember what happened on the battlefield? I remember. But why does father feel like it was all a dream? In my dream, father was so impressive. He led so many people into battle and defeated the enemy. Ha ha ha, so impressive. As he spoke, Mr. Chu threw his head back and roared with laughter, as if he had said something incredible. A dream? Had all those proud achievements on the battlefield become nothing but a dream to her father? After Mr. Chu finished speaking, he saw that everyone was looking at him in silence. He scratched the back of his head and said impatiently, Is there anything else? If not, I'm going to see my grandson. After he finished speaking, he skipped off to look for his grandson without waiting for anyone's response. Xiao Su held his wife's hand tightly. When she turned around, he gave her a reassuring look. Chu Qingyan relaxed and no longer felt so tense. She then asked Ethereal, Can't you tell what the reason is? Ethereal frowned and thought for a moment. This subordinate has a bold guess, but I don't know if it's valid. Xiao Su bluntly asked him to continue. Kong Ling nodded. It's like this. Previously, the old man recalled everything because of a high fever. Now because of the fever, he treats everything that happened after the fever as a dream. This subordinate thinks that the fever is inseparable from the fever. This subordinate reckons that the old man was stimulated by something that triggered the fever. This subordinate boldly speculates that the old man was worried about the safety of Master and the little princess, which triggered his original memories. When the dust settled and he no longer needed help, he returned to his original naive self. The above are all this subordinate's conjectures. Although Ethereal's explanation was a little far-fetched, it was the only explanation that could explain the past so far. Just as everyone was shocked by Ethereal's words, Chu Qingyan recalled that she had heard of such a situation in modern times. Some people would forget a lot of things because of a fall or trauma, resulting in two personalities. The former personality would fall into a deep sleep, but the person would live in a completely different form from the past. However, one day, something would happen and the dormant personality would be awakened. After the problem was solved, the dormant personality would fall into a deep sleep again, and the completely different personality would continue to live. Therefore, she thought that perhaps father was in such a situation. At this time, there were still matters to attend to in the imperial court, so Xiao Su was called away by Xiao Ho. Many people in the hall, leaving only the family. Chu Qingyan collected her thoughts and looked at her mother, who had been staring at her father. While everyone else was still in shock, She noticed that her mother had been very calm. She was a little worried and couldn't help but ask, "What's going on? Mother, what do you think about father's current situation?" Mrs. Chu's attention was drawn back by her daughter. She turned her head and smiled. "What else can I think? As long as your father is alive, it's fine." Chu Qingyan was a little distressed. "Do you feel regretful? You won't be able to see father's lucid face again?" Father had fallen into a coma not long after he came back from a fever. Mother didn't even say a few words to him. Chu Machen's mother came over and sat down beside her bed. She reached out and held her hand with a calm smile on her face. She continued, 16 years ago, when your father was carried back from the battlefield covered in blood, I blamed him. It wasn't because outsiders had framed him, but because he couldn't come back alive, causing his wife and daughter to worry about him. However, during this period, he had a high fever and didn't wake up. I started to feel scared, afraid that he wouldn't make it. At that time, I thought that as long as he was safe, even if he broke his arms and legs, I would take care of him for the rest of my life. Fortunately, in the end, the heavens heard my prayers and he woke up. Although he became like a child, I accepted it. Mother, Kai, as long as he's alive, there's still time. If he's gone, then there's really no way to find him. So as long as your father is alive, no matter what he becomes, I won't leave him. Chu Qingyan's eyes reddened. Perhaps in the eyes of others, her mother was delicate and weak, but such delicate shoulders supported the family during the most difficult times. She withstood the pressure of the world. Even if she was chased out of the Chu family, she gritted her teeth and left the capital with her sick and ignorant husband and newborn daughter to build a new home. Her husband's mind was like that of a child. It was equivalent to raising 2 children, but she had no regrets. She guarded the family, guarded her husband, and guarded her children. Her heart was the same as before. Water was soft, but it was also strong. As a mother, she was strong. As a wife, she was strong. Therefore, her mother was an admirable and strong woman. Chu Qingyan opened her arms and hugged her. "Mother, you're the greatest mother, and also the greatest wife." Faint traces of tears appeared in Mrs. Chu's eyes. When that came back, he was just like when she first met him 10 or 20 years ago. He didn't have any dementia. She knew at a glance that he was back. He walked in front of her and hugged her with tears in his eyes. "Dan Nyang, you've suffered for the past 10 years. I'm sorry." She shook her head and cried. "No, it's all worth it. For you, it's all worth it. But I may not be able to stay for long." "Where are you going?" "Dan Nyang, while there's still time, I have something to say to you. If there's a next life, let's be husband and wife again." "You fool." Before she could finish speaking, he fell into her arms and fell into a coma. When Mr. Chu realized that something was wrong with his body, he put down everything he was doing and rushed back. If he didn't love her to the bone, he wouldn't have rushed thousands of miles every day just to say a few words to her. "Kai, so you see, your father is still alive. Although he's a little retarded, his feelings for me are still the same. So what's there for me to complain about? It's a gift from the heavens that he's alive." Chu Qingyan followed her mother's gaze and saw her father lying on the cradle. He was making funny faces at the child in the cradle, making himself laugh. At this moment, her father seemed to have noticed her gaze. He turned around and waved at his wife with a sincere smile. "Mother, I don't want anything else in this life. I'm satisfied as long as I can be with your father. You and I are husband and wife, and we love each other without a doubt. In wealth and in poverty, in health and in sickness, we love and respect each other until death do us part. In life and in death, we will never leave each other." Chapter 15:11. The new emperor's ascension to the throne brought peace to the 4 seas. Another prince was born, and the entire nation celebrated. After the chaos of war, Sichuan ushered in peaceful days. Although they were not as prosperous as before, at least things were slowly getting better. Especially since happy events happened one after another. After learning that the new emperor had a descendant, the courtiers who had been thinking of stuffing their daughters into the harem finally gave up. If Chu Qingyan had given birth to a princess, they would still have a chance. What a pity. However, The courtiers were also happy. After all, the new emperor had given birth to a son, which was a good sign. With Master Su Jian in charge, everyone felt that good days were coming for Sichuan. Just as everyone was cheering and celebrating, some people were feeling depressed. At this moment, Xiao was staring intently at the little child who was yawning and leaning on his wife's body. He felt very uncomfortable. He had been sitting here for 2 hours and the time it took to brew a cup of tea. During this time, other than when he first entered the hall, and his wife asked someone to bring him a cup of tea, she didn't look at him again. He had never experienced this kind of treatment ever since he got together with the little fellow. He had always had a strong presence, but now he was sitting on the bench. He coughed softly. No one paid him any attention. He coughed softly again. Still no one paid him any attention. At this moment, his wife was happily chatting with his mother-in-law. "Mother, look, Kong Kong is so cute. He's eating with his little hands. Wow, Kong Kong is smiling at me. Kong Kong's eyes are so bright." At this moment, Xiao Su's mood was very sour. Mrs. Chu watched her son-in-law's every move from the side. She did not expect her all-powerful son-in-law to have such a side. She could not help but laugh. She reached out to carry her grandson and winked at her daughter. "Your father was just saying that he wanted to see the baby. I'll bring him over for him. You accompany your son-in-law." After this reminder, Chu Qingyan realized that her big ice cube was still there. After her mother left, she said in surprise, "Big ice cube, you're still here. I thought you left." Xiao Su felt like he had received a million blows to his heart. He glanced at her coldly, then picked up his teacup and ignored her. Chu Qingyan was a little stunned by his gaze. Could it be that he was throwing a tantrum? It shouldn't be like this. However, it was obvious that he was at odds with her. Chu Qingyan was both surprised and curious. She rolled her eyes and had a flash of inspiration. "All right, since you're ignoring me, I'll go over if you don't want to come over." She pretended to lift the quilt and was about to get out of bed, but a slender and powerful arm had already stopped her movement. She was secretly delighted. Sure enough, it was still like this. "You're still in confinement. You can't be exposed to the wind." As soon as Xiao Su finished speaking, he felt his cheeks heat up. He lowered his head just in time to see her shrink back. She was smiling brightly at him, and her face was still warm and wet. "I'll make it up to you. I neglected you just now." Chu Qingyan stuck her tongue out at him. The steadiness and affection she had used to coax the child was gone, and in its place was cuteness and tenderness. Xiao Su's throat tightened and he said hoarsely, "You want to dismiss me like this? Don't you think it's too casual?" She knew that she was in the wrong, so she said with an unnatural expression, "Then what do you want?" Xiao Su whispered a few words in her ear, and her face instantly turned as red as an apple. Just as she was about to scold him for being a hooligan, he had already seized the opportunity and grabbed her slightly open lips. Deep and teasing. There were layers of gauze, and she could only vaguely see the two figures entwined with each other. Because she had just given birth, Xiao Su only dared to touch her lightly. Otherwise, he would be the one burning. After they separated, she leaned against his chest and closed her eyes to catch her breath. Suddenly, she heard him say in her ear, "There's no next time." Just as she was about to ask what next time, her brain reacted. She opened her eyes and smiled. "Why? Are you jealous?" Xiao Su lowered his head and saw the teasing in her eyes. He snorted softly. Not to that extent. Not to the extent of being jealous of his own son. Chu Qingyan raised her hand and poked his chest. "Tisk tsk tsk. You're making people suspicious. But Big Ice Cube, that's your son. So what if he's my son? Even a son can't snatch a woman from his father." "I know." Xiao Su looked away and replied uncomfortably. At this moment, Chu Qingyan seemed to have thought of something and retracted her hand. Her gaze was serious and suspicious. "Big Ice Cube, tell me honestly, do you not like your son?" Xiao Su was stunned. Seeing him like this, she was even more certain of her guess. Seeing him push her away, she sneered. "I knew it. Ever since Kong Kong was born, you haven't hugged him much. I felt that something was wrong. Now I can see what you're thinking. You don't like your son at all." The in his arms disappeared immediately. Xiao Su felt that he hadn't hugged enough, but the most important thing right now was to resolve his wife's misunderstanding. He sighed. How can I not like my own son? It's just that ever since he was born, there have been so many people fighting to hold him. How could it be my turn? Moreover, the court is busy. When I went to court, Kong Kong was still asleep. When I came back, Kong Kong was already asleep. Today, it was only because he had accumulated all his official work last night that he had the time to accompany the mother and daughter. Upon hearing Big Ice Cube's explanation, Chu Qingyan suddenly snapped out of her daze. It was true. After their son was born, the line of people fighting to hold him almost reached the palace gates. Imperial grandfather, father, mother, Xiao, it was really a sea. Big Ice Cube was especially busy during this period of time. Every time she saw him, he looked tired. She felt that she had really neglected him recently. She hugged him again with guilt. I shouldn't have said that. It's been hard on you during this period of time. Xiao Su gently pinched her face. It's not hard. You, on the other hand, have been tired during this period of time. Chu Qingyan snuggled into his arms. I'm in charge of looking beautiful, and you're in charge of earning money to support the family. We have a clear division of labor. You've also been tired. I'll accompany you well today. Okay. They quietly accompanied each other. Without saying anything, they could feel each other's fondness and tenderness. Xiao Su stroked her long hair from time to time. The warmth and softness in his arms calmed him down. He lowered his head and wanted to say something, but the person in his arms had already fallen asleep. Her breathing was long, and her sleeping face was quiet and elegant. He chuckled softly and laid her flat on the bed, covering her with the blanket. He just sat there and looked at her, as if he couldn't get enough of looking at her in this lifetime. After a while, there was a sound of footsteps outside the hall. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows and walked out. He didn't want anyone to disturb the little fellow's rest. But when he stepped out of the inner hall, he bumped into the old master. Inverted scallion, you came at the right time. I'm going to accompany Dan Yang for a walk. Kong Kong, watch for a while. As soon as he finished speaking, a soft little thing was stuffed into his hand. Before Xiao Su could react, the person was already gone. He lowered his head and was caught off guard by a pair of big, bright eyes. Chapter 15:12. His bright and moving eyes were like the sparkling stars on a lake. They were like all the beautiful things in the world. With just one look, Xiao Su felt as if he had been conquered by this pair of eyes. Xiao Su held him with both hands, not knowing what position to use. He had held a bow, a sword, and a knife. He had tried the sharpest and hardest weapons in the world, but he had never felt that the thing in his hands was so soft and fragile. It was as if he would be hurt if he used a little force. It was as if it would melt in his mouth and break in his hands. This was the first time he had felt this way. It was very novel and moving, and he couldn't bear to part with it. Just as Xiao Su's body stiffened and he was thinking about what to do with the baby suddenly grinned at him. That sound was like the tinkling of a clear spring, the gentle breeze, and the drizzle. It was comparable to any beautiful sound in the world. Xiao Su's heart melted at his smile. He held him in his arms and walked towards the inner hall. Along the way, the palace servants who came and went were stunned by His Majesty's appearance, as if he was possessed by a warm father. Everyone was doubting themselves. Am I seeing things? Am I seeing things? Although the baby was less than a month old and couldn't speak, he still had a strong sense of familiarity with the person holding him. Yeah, baby language translation online. Papa, Papa. Although Xiao Su didn't understand what the baby was saying, this was the first time he heard the baby talk to him. His heart was filled with excitement, and he felt more accomplished than when he fought with the courtiers. He was thinking, why is my son so good-looking? Why is he so smart? Why is he so lovable? That pink face was soft and smooth. Xiao Su raised his finger, and hesitated for a while before he dared to touch it lightly. That soft feeling almost melted his heart. And the baby seemed to like this kind of intimacy very much. He danced with joy. Yeah. Baby language translation online. Papa kiss. Before he could retract his finger, The baby grabbed it and stuffed it into his mouth. Xiao was stunned by his actions. Then, looking at his happy expression, Xiao couldn't help but laugh. This was his closest blood relative in this world. This feeling was really mysterious. He lowered his head and gently touched the baby's forehead with his forehead. He said lovingly, "You're very good. Imperial Father loves you very much." Chu Qingyan opened her eyes, and this was the scene that greeted her. Her family's big ice cube was playing with the baby in his arms with a small toy in his hand. He had been a strong and determined man all his life. At this moment, he was exuding the light of a loving father. She was dazed and her eyes couldn't help but moisten. Why would she ask Big Ice Cube such a stupid question? It wasn't that Big Ice Cube didn't care about the baby, but he was too introverted and never showed it. Outside the window, the sun was shining brightly. Chu Qingyan glanced sideways slightly. She felt that this spring was really warm, and it warmed her heart. From that day onwards, the little baby seemed to recognize people. As long as he saw his imperial father, no matter who was in his arms, he would open his arms and cry out "Yaya," as if he was saying, "Papa hug, Papa hug." This shattered countless people's glass hearts. The Emperor Emeritus was heartbroken. "This little brat, I'll give you whatever you want. Why did you betray me in the blink of an eye?" Papa Chu scratched the wall and ground. "My grandson forgot about his grandfather after having a father. Dan Yang, baby's heart is bitter." Chu Qingyan's heart was sour. "Didn't you say that your son was your lover in your previous life? Why is your lover fighting with you for a lover in this life?" Hua Ling and the others looked at the sky. Master actually turned into a super invincible stay-at-home dad. This scene was simply too beautiful. They didn't dare to look. And Xiao enjoyed this feeling very much. The feeling of being liked and even relied on by his son was really too wonderful. So early in the morning, Xiao quietly got up and planted a morning kiss on his wife's forehead. After he finished dressing, he prepared to go to court. However, when he passed by the cradle, he habitually stopped to take a look at the baby. In the past, the baby always hugged the quilt and fell asleep, but today was different. His dark eyes rolled around as if he was waiting for him to appear. He waved his arms and legs, wanting him to carry him. Xiao's heart softened and he picked up the baby. He coaxed him and prepared to let him continue sleeping. Unfortunately, the baby seemed to be prepared as he tightly tugged on his sleeve and cried out, "Yaya." Xiao was amused by him. "You don't want Imperial Father to leave?" The baby immediately gave him a big smile. Xiao laughed and shook his head. He really couldn't do anything about it. So when Xiao passed by Xining with Kong Kong in his arms, he threw down a sentence. "This one is taking Kong Kong to court. When your master wakes up, let her know." When Xining reacted, they were already far away. Xining couldn't help sighing. This little master was truly too doted on by his majesty. When Chu Qingyan woke up and learned of this news, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He really was doting on her to the heavens. At this time, the civil and military officials were lined up to respectfully welcome the new emperor into the hall. Xiao walked in, and everyone knelt down to welcome him. The black imperial robe swept across the ground, and the corners of everyone's eyes. The thoughts of the officials were, His Majesty was still so noble and unapproachable. But at this time, a yaya sound rang out. The thoughts of the officials were, this sound was like the wind breaking through the waves. It was crisp and pleasant to the ears, very pleasant to the ears. Wait! Where did the sound of a baby come from? When the eunuch shouted rise, the officials finally dared to raise their heads. However, the new emperor's majesty was too great, and no one dared to look directly at him. But from this height, they could just see the infant lying in the new emperor's arms. That pair of bright eyes and delicate skin. It was really a cute and lovable child. Wait, this couldn't be the little prince, right? Everyone looked at each other, and suddenly felt ecstatic. They didn't expect to see the little prince's true appearance. They were simply too lucky. However, the baby who had already gotten his way didn't know how big of a commotion he had caused. At this time, he was looking around. This chair is so strange. What's that? Round. Why are there so many people below? Grandpa Beard. Ha ha ha. The officials who were presenting memorials couldn't help but lower their voices, afraid that they would scare the little prince who was attending court for the first time. Also, every time someone spoke, the little prince would look over with his bright and beautiful eyes. So the hall had become like this. Once an official who was presenting a memorial raised a problem, the little prince would look over with his bright eyes, and that official would take the problem on his own. This humble official should solve this problem by himself. There is no need for your majesty to worry. Or when the little prince looked around, the other officials would scramble to stand up. This humble official will take care of this problem. There is no need for your majesty to worry. So during the entire morning court, Xiao didn't have a single thing to worry about. After the court was dismissed, Xiao kissed his son's face and chuckled. Looks like I can bring you out to play more in the future. The baby in his arms stretched and prepared to catch up on sleep. He asked, "What is going to court? Can it be eaten?" The baby didn't know anything. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.